Making his season debut, Fox Saturday Baseball takes you to Flushing for the Phillies and the Mets.
We've got a gorgeous afternoon, perfect for Saturday afternoon baseball as the grounds crew here at Citi Field getting ready, grading out the dirt to make it just right, and of course lining the field as we take you up to first pitch. Sean Markham making his first start as a New York Met, and then Jonathan Pettibone making only his second professional start as a Philly. Fox Saturday Baseball presenting the New York Mets taking on the Philadelphia Phillies from Citi Field in New York. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the broadcast. Alongside my partner, Tom Verducci, I'm Kevin Burkhardt. So the Phillies took game one of this three-game set, 4-0 last night. Kyle Kendrick with the shutout, a three-hitter, a great game for him. But maybe the best note of this game for the Phillies was the bat of Ryan Howard. A three-run home run and now 2 home runs, Tom, in the last 3 games for him. Well,
it's been a rough month for the Phillies. They will get out of April with a losing record. Their outfield, one of the least productive in baseball. But when Ryan Howard has that home run stroke working, well, that's chicken soup for the Phillies. All of a sudden, they feel really good about themselves. 2 home runs in the last 3 games, an 8-game hitting streak. His first 3-run homer of 2013. This is a guy who hit 10 3-run homers in 2009.
Meanwhile, the Mets offense has done a nice job scoring runs. They're third in Major League Baseball in runs per game. But they haven't had that consistency that Terry Collins, the manager, craves. He has David Wright in the cleanup spot today. The guy, though, that they really need to get going is first baseman Ike Davis.
Yeah, the idea with Wright in the cleanup spot is to try to funnel some more RBI opportunities to David Wright. He did such a good job in the World Baseball Classic driving in runs. That's the idea behind Wright in the 4-hole. Of course, that was a little bit deeper lineup for Team USA, and not even Captain America can do it by himself. Ike Davis is the key to providing depth in this lineup. They need to get him going now out of the 7th hole for Terry Collins.
Phillies have been comfortable here at Citi Field. They've won 8 of the last 11 behind that man. Chase Utley was at a great start to the 2013 season. Howard looking to stay hot with the long ball last night against David Wright and the Mets. First pitch, Phil's Mets from Citi Field is coming up next. sunny, 62 degrees, sunshine, and a slight breeze. Perfect for baseball on this April Saturday afternoon. Opening pitch is brought to you by Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Great times are waiting. Grab some Buds. Today's starting lineup for the Phillies brought to you by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Moss. We take a look at Michael Young in the middle of the two lefties, Utley and Howard, something that Charlie Manuel did this week. He likes it that way, and Young 3 hits last night. Of course, Howard with the big one, a 3-run home run in the Phils' 4-0 victory over the Mets. And Sean Markham making his Mets debut after starting off the season on the DL with a neck nerve issue, but the former Brewer trying on the blue jersey today, Tom.
Yeah, and I like to say Sean Markham is a guy who's living in the 80s. No, he's not rocking a mullet. You're talking about miles per hour, and today's game, pitch count as well. Everything in the 80s for the most part. And he's really not stretched out. You mentioned making his first start. They want to keep him under 90 pitches. And no kitchen sink. He'll throw everything but the kitchen sink. His out pitches to left-handers will be that devastating changeup. To right-handers, it's the slider.
Mets defense today brought to you by Scott's, official lawn care company of Major League Baseball. The outfield of Duda, Valdespin, and Baxter. Tejada's got 6 errors on the year, high for him, although he has played very well so far this homestand. Charlie Manuel, 51 years in professional baseball, 9th year as skipper of the Philadelphia Phillies. Most managerial wins in their history. As we get set to lead it off this afternoon, Jimmy Rollins, the switch hitter, will step in the box against Sean Markham. Markham at 31 years old, 7-4 in 21 starts with the Brewers last year. And we're underway with a first pitch strike to Rollins. Markham signed a 1-year, $4 million deal this offseason. And Tom, you talked about living in the 80s. He will definitely do that. I asked him about his velocity and you know how it correlates to his changeup, and he said ideally, you know, I want to have a 7 and 8 mile an hour difference with that change. As it's 1-2 to Rollins, and he said, you know, if that means that my fastball velocity isn't totally there, then I got to scale back the changeup just a little bit more.
Yeah, and you saw early on out of the gate at 85 on the fastball. He's got the good curveball, the change you mentioned, the cutter, and a slider. See this two-seamer running away from Jimmy Rollins right there. Again, 85, but good late movement. And when he's on, the infielders have to be on their toes. He's going to get a lot of ground balls.
2-2 to Rollins, first batter of the game. And Rollins goes down on strikes. A good start for Markham as he strikes out the first batter of the game. Time now for our Ford keys to the game, Tom.
Well, for the Phillies, need to be patient. The Mets bullpen a little bit rocky this year. The worst ERA, tied with St. Louis in baseball. And for the Mets, we talked about this warming trend for the cold bat. Started out really on fire offensively. Lately, not so much. Ike Davis is the guy they really need to get going.
There is Ike Davis manning first base for the Mets today. Here is Chase Utley, who's really had a bounce back season for the Phillies this year. 3 doubles, 2 triples, 4 home runs. He leads the Phillies in just about every category, and Mets will shift for Utley and Howard, but this shift is a little different.
Yeah, it's interesting. You see the outfield shifted around to the left side, the infield shifted around to the right side. It tells you Chase Utley, when he hits the ball the other way, more often than not, it's in the air and not on the ground.
And Markham deals the breaking ball for a strike, so Markham throwing strikes coming out of the gate here, and Utley's in an 0-2 hole. As you look at Michael Young, who had 3 hits in the Phillies' victory last night, on deck. 0-2 to Utley. And 2 strikeouts to start the game for Sean Markham.
Yeah, already you've seen the great change of speeds here from Markham. Look at that ball, just like it dropped down a manhole cover. An open manhole cover that just dropped out in the bottom. Good location as well, down and away.
Now Michael Young with 2 down and no one on. A .333 clip. He had a 14-game hitting streak that just ended this week, so he's had a good year in his first ever year with a new club coming over from the Rangers.
Well, Charlie Manuel is waiting to see the power from Michael Young, but so far he comes as advertised. Last night 3 hits, 1 to left, 1 to center, 1 to right.
And Markham misses outside. It's 2-0 to Michael Young. Sean Markham, just in an effort to get him up here, the Mets were having some back end of the rotation issues, and they tried to get Markham here as quickly as possible. He threw 52 games in an extended spring game on Monday. Tejada got a long throw to make and not in time. That would have been an amazing play. So Michael Young beats out an infield hit.
Yeah, Tejada's showing off his range here, but the jump throw just not enough on it. Didn't have a play at first base anyway, but that's a good indication of the range you'll see from Tejada.
So Young on first with 2 down, and that'll bring up Ryan Howard, whose numbers against Markham are pretty incredible in a short sample size. He's 4 of 8. 3 of those hits were home runs against Markham, and we told you about the shift for Utley. Well, the shift gets a little more extreme defensively against Howard for the Mets.
Yeah, this actually puts pressure on infielders too, because if he does hit a ground ball into that shift, you're talking about having to make plays that you don't practice. Second basemen don't practice those throws. It's a little longer. It's a stranger angle. Feeling the ball off the grass.
Howard attacking the first pitch. Wright's got to run forever. Wright just ran the 400. Now he's got to go back to play shortstop, even though he's a third baseman.
See, he's near the second base bag almost and running a long way for this ball.
It's like Randy Moss running a fly pattern and not getting the ball.
Like he was covering a kick right there.
Howard being aggressive on that first pitch. And he takes low.
Kevin, we saw those numbers against Markham, 4 for 8, 3 home runs. I think it's a good indication, even though it's not a huge sample size, the fact you're talking about a great low ball hitter. And Markham obviously is a guy who has to live down in the zone. Ryan Howard also wears out a guy like Tim Hudson, another guy who pitches from the knees down. But you can't throw the ball low enough to Ryan Howard.
Well, Howard likes hitting here at Citi Field. He's got 3 consecutive games with a home run, 10 RBIs in those games. As a matter of fact, 8 career home runs at Citi Field. Not exactly the easiest place to hit a home run, but when Howard hits it, they usually go anywhere. Markham trying to strike out the side after getting Rollins and Utley. Young reached on an infield single. Now it's 1-2 to Ryan Howard.
Back to that changeup. Want to sink it down and away.
Buck keeps it in front of him.
You're anticipating the ball down here as a catcher. Buck got away with one there, trying to backhand that one rather than having the fingers down, but kept his body in front of it.
Comfort level there. Buck caught Markham together when they were in Toronto, so even though Buck played last night with a day game today, it was a certainty he was going to catch his old friend Markham today. It'll be a 2-2 to Ryan Howard. This one carrying the left. Duda retreating near the wall, looking up. He makes the grab, running into the wall. That one kept carrying, but Duda held on while crashing into the wall, and Markham gets a little help from his D, keeps the Phillies off the board in the first. Phillies fail to score. Mets coming up next after the D by Duda. Taco Bell. Sometimes you got to live Moss. Second day in a row, Terry Collins goes with this lineup with Baxter at the top, Tejada, Murphy, and then Wright in the cleanup spot. He did it last night. It obviously didn't work. They got shut out with 3 hits, but Collins going to it again and see if he has better results against the Phillies. And Jonathan Pettibone, his road debut here today.
Pettibone's a guy you saw in that major league debut where he showed really good command of the fastball. Wasn't afraid to throw it on both sides of the plate. That's really the strength of his game.
22 years old. He starts off against Mike Baxter as Baxter takes strike 1. Baxter, the Whitestone, Queens local kid who grew up literally blocks from here, rooting for the Mets. And quite the dream come true for him to come back and have a chance to play for his hometown team. And he's in a 1-2 hole. Jonathan Pettibone, Tom told you, made his debut Monday in Philadelphia against the Pirates and pitched very well. 5 1/3, 6 hits, 2 runs. They were both solo home runs as Tejada waits on deck. But maybe the best number, 6 strikeouts and no walks. 1-2 to Baxter, and it comes in and hits him. Baxter hit by the pitch, a leadoff man on for the Mets.
Like he tried to throw a breaking ball in there, just kept riding in on Baxter right there. Talked about his command. It really begins fastball command. Changeup is really his next best pitch. It's a good one. But developing a wrinkle is going to be the key for his development as a starting pitcher. Needs that third pitch. He's got a slider and sometimes will show a bit of a cutter, but he needs a third pitch, certainly as he works through a lineup 2 and 3 times.
Ruben Tejada, the hitter for the Mets, .219 on the season, but in a little bit of a slump, just 3 of his last 27. Baxter can steal a base, 1 for 1 on the year, and misses inside with a fastball to Tejada. It's 1-0. Well, he talked about that cutter. It's something that he developed last year to try to add to the mix there. Still trying to get comfortable with that.
Yeah, you saw that slider just bore in on Baxter there. It's not quite where he wants that pitch to be.
Baxter fakes going. Quick throw by Quintero down to first, but he gets back in.
Baxter there anticipating the bunt from Tejada, had a good secondary lead. Scrambles back in time.
Tejada rips 1 foul. Pettibone's a 3rd rounder for the Phillies back in 2008 out of Esperanza High School. That's around Anaheim, California. The ironic thing about his call up, he was called up with the injury to John Lannon, who had a strained left quad tendon, had to go on the DL. Tejada takes inside 2-2. The ironic thing is he wasn't exactly lighting it up down there. A couple starts, he was 0-1 with an ERA approaching 10, and then came up and totally reversed that trend in his major league debut on Monday.
Well, he was fortunate. I mean, he was fortunate because that was his day to throw, the day they needed a pitcher for Lannon. And some others were throwing the ball better than Pettibone, but you're not going to bring up a guy and pitch him on short rest or extra rest. It was his day to throw. He fit in and he passed that first test. That's why he's got the ball again today.
Sometimes you just need the door to open, and then now it's his turn to run with it. Tejada 3-2, excellent contact hitter. 11 of 33 with runners on this year. There goes Baxter. And we take a look at Pettibone, find out a little bit more about him. How about this? His dad, Jay, played for Charlie Manuel. In '84, the Orlando Twins, that's AA. There's no team in Orlando anymore. So Charlie Manuel has managed his father and now him.
And also on that team was Jeff Trout, father of Mike Trout.
Wow.
Good bloodlines on that team.
Matter of fact, when Pettibone was he was close to signing. He had offered to go to school at Cal, and he was trying to make up his mind. The Phillies were in the area. They were playing the Dodgers, and he went out to go and visit the Phils. They really recruited him hard. Had Cole Hamels give him a call. 3-2. There goes Baxter. Inside ball 4. The Pettibone hit Baxter to start. Now walks Tejada. 2 on for the Mets. No one out. Here comes Daniel Murphy.
Yeah, he's going to get a little chat from Quintero and Ryan Howard here just to try to settle him down. You've seen early on is not showing real good command of that changeup. Went to the 3-2 changeup there and really left it up. A pitch earlier in that at bat that Tejada slammed foul. Another changeup that he left up. Got to get that pitch down.
So 2 on for the Mets. Baxter and Tejada here in the bottom of the first, and Daniel Murphy has been the best hitter for average this year. Takes strike 1. Just to finish the thought on Pettibone, so he goes and throws a bullpen in L.A. in front of the Phillies, meets Charlie Manuel, and that was the first time that Charlie saw his father, Jay Manuel, since that time in '84. Family reunion of sorts. Pettibone goes 1-1 to Murphy. Mets are just 3 of the last 20 with runners in scoring position. Murphy, their best hitter with runners in scoring position at .538. Take a look at the Phillies defense, brought to you by Scott's, official lawn care company of Major League Baseball. Strange thing out of that alignment is Chase Utley has 5 errors, very uncharacteristic for him. Quintero behind the dish for Pettibone today.
This is certainly a different Pettibone so far early on than we saw in his debut. Fastball command not there.
Double play, ball softly hit. Utley on the turn. 6-4-3 double play. Baxter goes to third, but 2 down.
I think he really surprised Murphy with the changeup here. Broke his bat, had him out front, and got a tailor-made double play. As an infielder, you know when that trail runner is not being held on at first base, he's going to have a huge jump and will be on top of you in a hurry. And here's the changeup. We talked about him leaving it up. This one's up, but it's away. Enough away off the end of the bat to break his bat and get that slow roller.
So Pettibone now 1 out away from getting out of a jam. It's only the 10th double play the Mets have hit into this year. It's a league low. David Wright takes ball 1. He's also been terrific this year with runners in scoring position. Right, having another solid start to the year. 297. 3 triples for him, which is the anomaly. He's had 3 triples the last 2 years combined. Right at .455 runners in scoring position so far this season. It's 2-1 to the Mets captain. Terry Collins naming him the captain, just the 4th in team history in spring training. There you see the numbers. He's been clutch with runners on.
Kevin, you can see early on the confidence in that changeup. 2-0 pitch. Doesn't want to give in to Wright. Nice changeup.
And better than his fastball so far in this first inning.
See, Quintero is saying, give me a shake. Want to throw the fastball, but let's make him think we're shaking to something off speed.
Count goes full on Wright. Lucas Duda made a very good catch to end the top of the first. Running into the wall for Ryan Howard on deck if Wright should keep the inning going. (3-2). So the Mets making Pettibone work here in this first inning. He's already thrown 23 pitches. He's had 2 strikes so far on every hitter.
As Quintero, he's been looking up at the hitter before every sign. He's trying to read something. Body language, something in the eyes.
Strike 3 call. Pettibone escapes the first inning after hitting the first batter, walking the next. Mets fail to score. Gorgeous day in New York for a walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. No score after 1. Citi Field in New York. Phillies and Mets are scoreless, each team with an opportunity in the first. And so now Sean Markham begins his second inning as a Met, facing 5, 6, and 7 in the Phil's order. Dominic Brown, the left fielder, will lead things off. And Markham drops in the breaking ball for strike 1. Well, Tom, he's really had all the pitches working for strikes so far in this early going.
He's a master of mixing them, usually never 2 back-to-back either.
Chance for Murphy, and Brown retired, 1 away. Well, this Phillies outfield has had trouble producing runs as you look at the combined numbers here. And as you see, they're not so great. Now, they are waiting on the return of Delman Young, who they acquired in the offseason. He's actually close to returning. Charlie Manuel said it's possible he could be with them in Cleveland their next series. I'm thinking probably as a DH in that series, so he doesn't have to run around in the outfield.
Well, they signed him to be their everyday right fielder, a position he's really never played in big leagues. But you're right, they'd hope to get him back in Cleveland to be the DH. With that outfield, you saw those names there. I mean, you can't have it all. With as much money as they have in starting pitching, and they have $64 million in 3 starting pitchers, you have to compromise. Lance Nix is actually their highest paid outfielder at $1.3 million. And they believe that they have the answers here, that the talent is there, but you're talking about guys who just have not done it over the course of a full major league season and really starting to get to ages where it's time to produce.
2-1 to Mayberry. Well, Mayberry is one of the cases. He's got tremendous power and on occasion he'll show. He's got 6 doubles and a home run this year. Dominic Brown, who grounded out to start the inning. The Phillies have been waiting on him seemingly since they drafted him in 06. You know, and for years you saw this Phillies outfield with Victorino and Worth and just patrolling out there and being so steady. It's a little different look. First 3-ball count from Markham today.
Yeah, you see he's got what he thinks is a fastball count. The cutter just runs away from him. You never know what you're getting here from Markham at 3-2. He's already established he can throw anything for a strike in this game.
He's got it all over. Payoff pitch to Mayberry. That's going to be a souvenir.
And Mayberry's a guy who maybe hasn't had a long run in the big leagues as an everyday player. Really hasn't established himself against right-handed pitching. Career .235 hitter against right-handers, but this is certainly an opportunity in 2013. You don't have to worry about going 0 for 4 whether you'll be in the lineup the next day or not.
And he lays off ball 4. So Sean Markham issues his first walk. Mayberry held the swing.
And one of the things about Markham, he's had trouble staying healthy over the years. He's a guy that's called a late loader. His foot is going to hit the ground before the ball gets to the loaded position. It's not quite up at the top yet when that toe hits the ground. That puts a lot of strain on the shoulder. You see the change up, the circle change grip there with the thumb and index finger together there. He's got a history of arm and elbow issues. I think he puts a lot of strain on that shoulder. Now it also works to his advantage because it generates tremendous sink the way he pitches over that front leg.
Well, he missed time with the Brewers last year. 2 months of time with elbow tightness in 2012. He's had Tommy John surgery. That was in September of 08. Told you he was on the DL to start this year with nerve inflammation in his neck. There goes Mayberry. Buck's throw is good and in time. Mayberry caught stealing. The Buck 5 of 13 throwing runners out now on the year.
He got a good pitch to throw him out on here. Pitch away and up. Buck makes a nice strong throw. Wasn't a great jump, but Markham's quick to the plate. They say a double play is a pitcher's best friend. Well, this is a pretty good buddy right here too. Erase a runner on a pitch out of the strike zone.
Boy, look how close that was. But the throw was real good to Hada with the quick tag, and just like that, 2 down. And Markham's had a good breaking ball going. Take another look.
Boy, that is close.
I think he was safe. Two-1 to Nix. And there's a strike. Take a look at the umpires for today. The crew chief is Field Colbreth behind the dish. David Rackley, a new addition today because Brian O'Nora was behind home plate to start the game yesterday and left in the first inning with flu-like symptoms. So Rackley coming in from the bullpen, and O'Nora hopefully feeling a little bit better after sprinting into the Mets dugout in the first inning. Had a little bit of a delay last night.
Got far to the left side. David Wright playing well off the bag at third base. A lot of pull hitters on this Philadelphia team.
And now Markham has his second walk of the inning. So after walking Mayberry, he was caught stealing. He issues a 2-out walk to Lance Nix, and that brings up Humberto Quintero. The Mets will be check that. The Phillies will be making a move tomorrow because their terrific catcher Carlos Ruiz is coming back and will be activated tomorrow, which is a huge deal. He had to serve a 25-game suspension for a banned stimulant. So we'll see what the Phillies will do. The thought process is Quintero would probably be the casualty since he's the backup now, but Ruiz is just an enormous player. Not only career numbers offensively for him last year, but he's really kind of the heart and soul of this team when you ask a lot of people, especially around the Phillies organization.
Well, there's no doubt about that. As much we talked about this, how much they invest in pitching here, it's in Ruiz's hands, and offensively, it reminds me a little bit of Yadier Molina. Just keeps getting better as an offensive player, especially in run-scoring situations.
I thought that wasn't supposed to happen. I mean, he had the tremendous season last year. He's obviously been a great postseason before. And you take a look at Ruiz. Look at those numbers, Tom.
He's had a lot of big hits for this team, especially in postseason. But look at that batting average playing the catching position. I thought you were supposed to wear down as you age as a catcher. He's getting better.
Yadier Molina has clearly found the fountain of youth somewhere and is sharing it with Ruiz. And he did go around. So it's 1-2 to Quintero.
Little cutter right here. He's trying to check it. He's really done a good job. Markham has him staying out of the middle of the plate.
The 1-2. Hot shot, but right corrals at third. Inning over. Sean Markham issued a couple of walks, but the Phillies kept off the board. We come back. John Buck, who's had a terrific April, leading the Mets in home runs and RBIs, is up. No score, Phillies Mets. Presented by Chevrolet, and it's sponsored by Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Great times are waiting. Grab some buds. We head to the bottom of the second. No score, Mets and Phillies. Sean Markham issued a couple walks in the top of the first, but got out of it with a nice defensive play by David Wright. And here's Lucas Duda, who has had, well, you could dive into numbers in Lucas Duda all day long on the season he's had so far for the Mets. And he takes upstairs and away, ball one. Duda is third in the league with a .442 on base percentage. He is not swinging much at all. He's taking 70% of the pitches, which is leading Major League Baseball. He's got 5 home runs, showing you the power, but he's driven in 8. So the question around Duda has been this year, boy, he's doing a great job with the eye as he takes a strike there, but is he being aggressive enough?
It's funny, I asked him that question. I said, Lucas, as patient as you are, do you ever have any coaches, instructors say, hey, can you be a little more aggressive? He said, yeah, my dad.
Nix hauls it in to right, and there's one down. Time now for the Lowe's Never Stop Improving Game Break. Let's go to the studio with Matt Vasgersian.
Kevin, the Tigers and Braves playing in the 19th annual Negro Leagues tribute game, and Johnny Peralta likes the throwback unis. His second home run of the year, a 2-run shot, puts the Tigers up early. The Braves, after the great start, losers in 5 of their last 7. Kevin, back to you and Tom.
Matt, thanks. Now, my only question, are the throwbacks woke? I mean, are they really throwbacks, or they just look like them?
They look like them. Believe me, those guys wouldn't put them on. At least it's cool if they were.
That's true.
Can you imagine those wool ones in July?
That would be a little rough. I just want to know how far they were taking this as John Buck takes ball 1 from Pettibone.
You know, just to finish the thought on Duda, when I mentioned his dad, he said his dad texts him all the time. Swing the bat, be more aggressive.
At least you know he's watching.
That's his unofficial hitting coach, his dad.
Dave Hudgens, the hitting coach for the Mets. He's the paid hitting coach. I don't know if his dad gets paid for it, but he's certainly watching. John Buck, speaking of hitting, had a great month with his new team, coming over in the R.A. Dickey trade from Toronto. 7 home runs that lead the Mets, 22 RBIs that leads the National League. There's a strike. As a matter of fact, consider this. Last year with the Miami Marlins, John Buck hit 12 home runs and drove in 41. So he's halfway to the RBI total and already has more than half home runs.
And let's face it, was not exactly a centerpiece in that deal. Actually, he was really included in that deal because Toronto needed to even out some of the money in that deal. Buck making $6 million. The Mets knew that he's a guy who hit 20 home runs a couple of years ago in Toronto. Gladly took him.
3-1 count. Yeah, it was even more of a money matching up thing to kind of go in the deal. And it's been a godsend. He really has. He's been terrific. Ike Davis, Mets looking to get him going. He's on deck with 1 out and the base is empty. A 3-2 count to Buck. And he's punched out. Second strikeout for Jonathan Pettibone, 2 down.
Now, this is the pitch to me from Pettibone that's going to take him to the other level. We talked about adding the wrinkle. He got the slider on David Wright and the slider right here, 3-2 on John Buck. He thinks this is a fastball. It's going to run in and comes back over the front corner of the plate. We've seen the changeup. We know he's got command of that fastball. That's the difference maker for Pettibone. He's thrown a couple of good sliders already.
Pettibone hit a batter to start the game and then walked a batter, but he started to kind of tune it in. That command is coming to him here. 2 down, base is empty for Ike Davis. And Tom talked about his struggles in the open. 169, 4 home runs, 7 RBIs, no doubles, which is weird for a power hitter. Tom, the thing for Davis is this is the 2nd straight year that he's going through this type of April.
Yeah, he's definitely a streak hitter on both ends. Obviously, they saw a lot of the good streak last year in the second half with the power numbers. But he's a real tinkerer. You know, you can see him from week to week with different stances, gets close to the plate, away from the plate, spreads out, feet together, hands up, hands down. I mean, he's changed from last night, Kevin. His hands are much higher today than they were last night.
You ever seen anybody like that to that extreme?
Well, not to this extreme. Cal Ripken was known as a man of 1,000 stances, but this is a man of 1,000,000 stances.
Davis stays inside the line, fair ball, and a good bounce. This could be the first double of the year, and it is for Ike Davis.
See your pitch. That's really a nitro zone for a lot of lefties. Down and in ball. He's out in front of this, but this ball somehow stays fair. Definitely a fair ball. As you mentioned, Kevin gets a nice kick to turn into a 2-base hit. You know, I asked him about all that tinkering that he does, and I think one of the issues is he really doesn't have a default mode to go back to. He says, I'll keep trying things, and if something works, then I'll stick with it. And I think that makes it very hard. He's got a lot going on at the plate, obviously, with his hands and setup. But I think that stance you'll see next time now. 2-base hit, it worked.
So mark that one on video. Keep that in there. And we'll see if he kind of emulates that the next at bat. Meanwhile, he's in scoring position with 2 down for Jordany Valdespin. Takes a fastball for strike 1. Valdespin had quite the moment earlier this week for the Mets. A walk-off grand slam against Josh Wall and the Dodgers to win a game, middle game of that 3-game series. The 6th walk-off grand slam in Mets history. Liner over the glove of Rollins, base hit. David's going to come around and score the game's first run. Valdespin sprinting into second. He's got an RBI double. 1-0 New York.
Valdespin is a guy who attacks the baseball. Watch his stride, almost landing on the front stripe of the batter's box. This was a changeup he left up, and he did a nice job keeping his hands above the ball. It's very easy to pop that one up. Kept his hands above the ball and just hit it on a line through the gap. Head on the ball, hands over the ball. Perfect swing on that pitch. Didn't try to do too much with that. A lot of times your eyes get big and your swing gets big. Nice job by Valdespin.
Here's Markham. And strike one from Pettibone. So Valdespin won the game for the Mets on Wednesday against the Dodgers with a walk-off grand slam, and he gives them their first lead since that hit with that RBI double. Markham hits one to left. This one is pretty deep. Brown will haul it in front of the track. So the former college shortstop gives it a ride, but the Mets do add a run on the RBI double. We'll return to New York after a word from your local Fox station. On a gorgeous Saturday afternoon in New York City. Well, Major League Baseball has teamed up with Autism Speaks, the world's leading autism science and advocacy organization. And today's first pitch thrown by Dave Whittles and his son, Tyler. The Whittles family, the #1 Walk Now for Autism Speaks fundraising team in the entire country. They've raised more than $1 million by themselves for Autism Speaks since 2005 through their walk team, Tyler W. Great to see out there for the game today. Autism Awareness Day here at Citi Field. Out in the bullpen party area, with areas where you can go and during the game, and volunteers standing by. Sean Markham begins his 3rd inning of work against the opposing pitcher Jonathan Pettibone. See what he's done in his minor league hitting career. And he goes the other way and has his first major league base hit. How about that?
It's a pretty good stroke right there. That's a souvenir. You know, with Pettibone, you know, some mistakes for pitchers nod them more than others, and I think the pitch to Valdespin really is going to nod him. 8th place hitter, pitcher on deck, 2 outs, base open, just can't afford to make a mistake. So he's taking it into his own hands with the bat in his hands to try to make up for that.
So a leadoff runner on with Pettibone here in the 3rd. Now Rollins, who struck out to start the game off against Markham. 8 doubles, a triple, and a home run for Rollins. And with the retirement of Chipper Jones, he leads in a lot of statistical categories against the Mets.
One thing you want to do with Jimmy Rollins is stay soft and stay away. Anything hard and in is what he will just hammer.
And that one's going to find some room in center field for a base hit. First 2 runners on for the Phillies here in the 3rd.
Yeah, he wanted to get this one a little farther away. That's a nice job by Rollins, actually. Pitch is outside corner. It was a nice job staying on this one. I got a kick out of Daniel Murphy on this line drive, trying to fake out Pettibone at first base. Watch Murphy here at second base. He's in double play depth. Looks like a line drive. He's got a shot to catch, right? He's going to pretend he caught it. I don't know, maybe he's looking for that 8-6 force out at Pettibone at second base, center field to second base.
You know, one of these days it's going to work.
You never know with a pitcher on the bases.
It's kind of like the old fake to third, throw to first play, which never worked, and now you'll never see it again because it's a balk. The new rule this year. Danger zone for Sean Markham with the middle of the Phillies order with Chase Utley. 2 on, nobody out. Utley's at .435 with runners in scoring position this year. He was a strikeout victim in his first at bat against Markham. And the breaking ball is inside Utley for ball 1. You know, Utley's dealt with chronic knee issues the last couple of years, which has cut down his seasons. He started both of the last 2 years on the DL. And Phillies people say the first series of the year he hit a triple against Atlanta, and that's when they knew that he was kind of back.
He certainly has a lot of room for a triple out there in right center field, with Valdespin really playing him like a right-handed pull hitter.
Well, here is Utley after a couple of injury-plagued seasons with bad knees, trying to play through it. You look what he did. He won the best second baseman in the game during that time. And then last couple of years, the struggle staying on the field. All those games missed. But this year he has been back to his old electric self. And in an RBI spot here in the 3rd with a 1-1 count against Sean Markham, who's 3 for 8 against career. One tailing away from Valdespin. It's going to be in there for a base hit. One hops over the wall. That'll be a ground rule double for Chase Utley and an RBI as Pettibone comes in to score, and that's tied this game up at 1.
Nice job of hitting here by Utley with the pitch running away from him. Just stays on this pitch. We mentioned Valdespin really shading towards left center. Not even shading there, can catch up with this ball. Just hit too well, perfectly placed in the gap. Hops over the fence. Pettibone's not sure what to do. Actually, Rent played that well. Get off the bag a little bit. If it's caught, you still have time to get back to the base for a potential tag and move over.
So the first real speed bump for Sean Markham in his season debut today. 3 straight hits for the Phillies. And now second and third with no one out from Michael Young, who singled his first time up. And takes inside. Just goes to show you, the Phillies coming in today were at a league worst 205 batting average to lead off an inning. So who do you look to? The pitcher to get the rally started. Howard looming on deck. Michael Young, 324 career with runners in scoring position. held his swing.
And listen, he's a good hitter anyway, but I believe he's such a good hitter in run scoring situations. And you see him check this. Breaking ball dives out of the zone, that he really is able to use the whole field. Very good two-strike hitter, lets the ball get deep with 2 strikes. You won't see him out front too often. That's exactly what Markham's trying to do right here. He's not so much a strikeout pitcher. To get him to roll over, ground ball to third base, keep the runner at third by way of a ground ball, more so than strikeout.
And that one bounces by Buck. Rollins will sprint home and score, and the Phillies take a 2-1 lead. A wild pitch by Markham, and Rollins comes home to score.
See Buck trying to get outside of this curveball here with the backhand. It just takes a nasty hop and rides up off the glove. Good read by both runners right here. That's a no-brainer for Jimmy Rollins. Got a better chance of backhanding a fastball in that situation than a spinning pitch like the breaking ball right there. Very difficult play for Buck, especially when you're set up inside like that.
The Phillies set up for a big inning. Already 2 on the board, nobody out. 3-1 to Michael Young with Howard on deck. Infield comes in. There's a strike.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Infield in with tie score in a 1-1 game, no outs. It was back originally, but now you don't want to concede another run here, down 1.
Payoff to Young. Foul tip caught by Buck, and Young a strikeout victim. Markham needed that. It's his 3rd strikeout of the game, 1st out of the inning.
Well, he did get him out front on the breaking ball. See Young reaching there. His hips are gone by the time the ball's there, and all he can do is to try to get a piece of it. Nice job by Markham. Certainly not out of the woods yet.
Not with Ryan Howard up. Retired on a deep flyout that Lucas Duda caught at the wall in the 1st inning. Howard is 4 of 9 with 3 home runs against Markham. And remember the shift in the 1st inning where they had Murphy playing in right field, but they'll keep the infield in and in a normal spot here, Tom.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many ground balls Ryan Howard does hit to the left side. You see now Tejada moves over a little closer up the middle. It seems to make more sense. There's no question he's looking to drive the ball here, something to the outfield, and that outfield is almost playing a no doubles defense right now. Very deep on Ryan Howard. Looks to me like his best pitch, he's going to go change up here, has been the breaking ball. He'll probably stay soft throughout this at bat to Howard.
Barring the wild pitch to score the run, he has had good commands of that breaking ball today.
You mentioned earlier, Kevin, his ability to add and subtract off the changeup is important. You see that one there at 77. We saw him come out in that 1st inning throwing changeups at 80 and 81. Usually you talk about adding and subtracting velocity off the fastball. Markham does an excellent job with the off-speed pitch. Back to the breaking ball.
And Buck does a nice job to stay in front. You talked about haven't seen Ryan Howard go to the left side on a ground ball. It's because he hasn't this year. Not once. Good block.
Good block and a good take by Ryan Howard. No hitter in baseball sees a larger percentage of curveballs than Ryan Howard. Doesn't matter right-handed, left-handed. Of course, that's partly because he just crushes fastballs. Back here to the changeup again, staying soft.
Another good block. And it's almost like the Mets and Terry Collins heard you, because now they shifted the defense over with 3 on the right side as we get later in the at-bat.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, you'd hate to give up a ground ball and have a run score on a ground ball to a routine shortstop position. But on the other hand, you mentioned it, he doesn't hit ground balls that way, so why defend it? Staying soft again. Let's see if he gets this down to 77 area.
Howard
even slower.
Yeah,
76. Yeah, remember this one, he did try to throw something with velocity, the fastball here. The ball just stayed in the yard. Hasn't seen anything resembling a fastball since.
It's funny, right? Because Howard doesn't hit any ground balls to the left side, but really when he's going well, power to the left side is a good thing.
Fastball in.
This one muscled out to left again due to retreats. That'll easily score Chase Utley. Sacrifice fly Ryan Howard. Make it 3-1 Philadelphia.
Well, he's trying to throw that two-seam comeback fastball. Maybe get Howard looking. Wanted to start that ball off the plate a little more. See, that's the fastball with the pinky pointing in. Wants that two-seamer in on Ryan Howard. Try and make it look like a ball and have him take it, give up on it. Just didn't get it inside enough. You can see Markham there slap his leg there. He knew. It wasn't a bad pitch. That's a pitch designed to be taken for a strike.
Dominic Brown with the big cut. Grounded out to second base in his only at bat. Phillies have put 3 on the board against Sean Markham here in the third to take a 3-1 lead. Another base hit for Philadelphia in the inning. Brown makes the big turn, but will stop there. 4th hit in the inning off Markham.
You know, and that's a nice job by Brown, too. I mean, this is, again, I talked earlier that he hadn't thrown too many balls in the middle of the plate. This is one of them, and Brown hammers it. I mean, that's 86 center cut. Does a nice job. Valdespin plays so deep in center field. You see Brown right out of the box is really hustling. This ball, he's thinking 2 bases on what normally is a routine single. But because Valdespin plays so deep in center field, see him hustle to get that ball in. Brown did a good job of thinking 2 out of the box.
Markham up to 57 pitches so far. Remember, he's going to be capped at about 90 today. This is first start as Mayberry takes a cut, and he only threw 52 in extended spring on Monday. That's even a pretty big jump.
Yeah, you know, he did go to the bullpen after those 52, kind of finish it out to run up his pitch count to the 70s, but that's bullpen. Also, as you mentioned, that's extended spring training. It's not your traditional official rehab assignment in a, say, a ballpark minor league atmosphere type deal. So there's no question that there's some rust here on Sean Markham.
Oh, and 2 to Mayberry. That's got their run on a Jordani Valdespin double in the second. Phillies answering right back here in the top of the third. RBIs from Utley and Howard.
See if Brown wants to run here. 2 strikes, 2 outs, probably a changeup count.
Buck has gotten his work behind the plates. He had the curveball go by him for a wild pitch to score Rollins, but he's done a nice job staying in front otherwise. Buck actually kind of recruited Markham to come to the Mets. He had been traded here, and the 2 were friends when they played in Toronto, and called him up and asked him to come on down, trying to help his former teammate through this tough inning. 24 pitches this inning for Markham.
Yeah, to me, that's always a more important number. You mentioned the pitches in the inning than the overall number. When you have to throw a lot of pitches, especially a lot of pitches out of the stretch, you know, not all pitches are created equal. You get over 24, 25 pitches in an inning, especially working a lot out of the stretch, that will stress a pitcher.
Mayberry jammed, and it's caught by Murphy. Inning over, but not before the Phillies do some damage as they put up 3 runs in the frame to take a 3-1 lead over the Mets. Phillies put a 3-spot on Sean Markham at the top of the third to grab a 3-1 lead. And Jonathan Pettibone out for his third inning of work. Back to the top of the order for the Mets, and Mike Baxter hit by the pitch but stranded on third in that first inning. Kind of an early turning point. You know, Tommy hit Baxter out of the gate and then walked Tejada. Meanwhile, between innings, those two, the battery, talking about that rough third.
As you mentioned, they know one another well. 22 starts. Buck has caught Markham in Toronto, obviously. A lot to talk about that inning because a lot of pitches.
So Dan Worthen, the pitching coach, on the phone with the bullpen. But, you know, Pettibone hit the first batter, Baxter, walked Tejada, but has really come back after that. First pitch strikes 5 of 10 batters. He only had that 8 of 21 batters in his debut, so he's gotten better even as this game has gone on here in the third.
You see Quintero going out there right now. What I like about Pettibone, and this is true of all the Phillies pitchers, is they control the pace of the game. I mean, they set land speed records running out to the mound to take their warm-ups, to get the ball, don't walk around the back of the mound, get the sign, stay around the rubber. Pettibone certainly taking cues from guys like Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay.
Probably a good idea.
I would say so. If you're going to crib off of those two guys, you'll be okay.
Well, the talk was that Kyle Kendrick was kind of taking part in Roy Halladay's workout and between starts work ethic. And I guess you could look at the results last night and maybe say there's some correlation. 1-2 to Baxter. And Mike Baxter has a leadoff base hit for the Mets. Well, between innings, we caught up with Phillies pitching coach Rich Doobie. Asked him what he likes so far about his young starter Pettibone.
Well, that's what he needs. He needs to get ahead a little bit better. He's not throwing a whole lot of first pitch strikes yet, but hopefully he can get some command of his fastball. That'll help his changeup and protect it that much better.
Rich, how about the slider, too? We've seen him actually mix in a couple of good ones in what looked like hitter counts.
Yeah, he threw a couple front door cutters there for a couple big strikeouts. So he's got a lot of capabilities. It's, again, a young kid trying to get his feet on the ground, and the more he gets his feet on the ground, I think the more his command will get better.
We thank Rich Doobie for coming on and talk about Pettibone, who has seemingly gotten a little bit more comfortable. Good command as the game's gone on. But a leadoff runner with Baxter who can steal a bag, and Tejada takes low, ball 1.
Yeah, Terry Collins definitely has some options here. Tejada obviously handles the bat really well. We talked about putting David Wright in the 4-hole. One of the things Terry Collins likes about this new lineup is Tejada in the 2-hole, who can hit behind the runner at first base.
Tejada so good getting deep in the count as Terry Collins looks on. And the Mets as a team have been pretty good at that, for what it's worth. They're seeing 4.03 pitches per plate appearance, second in the league behind the A's. You know, but Thomas, Terry Collins was pointing out to us earlier, they're making these starters work and knocking them out of the game, but they aren't taking advantage necessarily, especially once they're out of the game. So it hasn't totally worked to their favor.
Yeah, and as much as you want certainly not to swing at balls, I think the pitch count per plate appearance can be overrated. There's not a correlation between that and winning baseball games. Last year, 13 teams were above average in pitches per plate appearance. 9 of them went home. Only 4 of them went to the postseason. It seems like the San Francisco Giants and Detroit Tigers were really at the bottom in pitches per plate appearance, and you look up in the World Series and there they are.
2-1 to Tejada, and he watches that one go outside. It's 3-1. Double play ball. Rollins will take it himself. 2 down. Time for the Ace Helpful Player Profile, brought to you by Ace, the helpful place. It's Daniel Murphy. Had a good year so far with that batting average. Not striking out too much. He's scored a team high 17 runs. And home runs is where he really wanted to improve, show some power. He only had 6 of them last year. 2 already, a better start. Lazy fly ball to Brown, and a quick inning Jonathan Pettibone gets a double play ball. Mets are through in the third. Phillies on top 3-1. By Scott's, the official lawn care company of Major League Baseball. And by Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Lance Nix leads it off for Philadelphia in the top of the fourth inning as the Phillies lead the Mets 3-1. And Jonathan Pettibone's done a nice job getting the ground balls today. Consider the fact that coming into today, Mets had grounded into just 8 double plays. That was a major league low, but he's induced 2 of them, including the one on Tejada last inning today. Nixo, first plate appearance, walked and was stranded on first base. 2 doubles, 2 home runs. A good pinch hitter too. He's got 6 pinch hits to lead the Phils this year. Robert Carson is warming in the Mets pen as Markham with that pitch count at 64. It's been stressful with the 64, especially the last inning. See how long Terry Collins lets him go.
It's a nice move by Terry Collins. You know, instead of waiting for trouble, you know, with the pitch count situation with Sean Markham, probably we know he's not going to get to 90. You mentioned the stressful inning last inning, 26 pitches last inning. Now's the time to keep a real close eye on Sean Markham.
Quintero waits on deck. Two to Nix. Popped him up. Wright will battle the sun and make the catch. Let's go to Matt Vescursion in the MLB Network studios for Game Break.
Infield single for the Triple Crown winner ties the game at 3. The defending AL champs starting play a game back of first place Kansas City. Back to Kevin and Tom.
Matt, thanks. 3-1 Phillies over the Mets here. We play the fourth. Quintero for 1. Grounded out to right. Made a nice defensive play. This time a broken bat and another tough hop for Wright. And he throws out the slow-footed Quintero. 2 down.
mentioned, tough hop. Made all the more difficult. I'm not sure if it was in his vision or not, but sharp bat flying at you in the same play.
David Wright has played a stellar third base. 76 consecutive games without an error for the Mets. A couple nice plays early in this one. As Pettibone with 2 down. He got a hit his first time up, his first big league hit. Came around to score. He started that Phillies rally last inning.
Well, you know he's a serious pitcher when as a pitcher you go up there and you expose your throwing arm to the pitcher. In other words, he's a right-handed thrower, left-handed hitter. I know guys like Madison Bumgarner and Tim Lincecum with the Giants are the same way. Those are good hitting pitchers.
Markham kind of redirects it to Murphy. But a 1-2-3 inning for Sean Markham. 9 pitches in that inning. Phillies up 3-1. Saturday Baseball presented by Chevrolet. Celebrate the craft of baseball for a chance to win a Chevy Impala and a trip to the MLB All-Star Game. Visit ChevyBaseball.com. Of course, the All-Star Game being played right here at Citi Field this year. David Wright hoping to be a part of that. All-Star Game here on Fox. See the patches on the sleeves as Wright was a strikeout victim against Pettibone his first at bat. Leading off the 4th. Nick's giving it a look. Is he going to have room? He won't.
I think it would be cool to see David Wright not only in the game, but how about home run derby?
Hasn't done that one in a while.
I always thought when you host team for a home run derby all-star game event, it'd be nice to have one of your own guys in the event.
You kind of have to, don't you? New York's got some big events, and Fox is here to cover them with the All-Star Game this summer at Citi Field, and then the Super Bowl at MetLife Stadium in Jersey coming up in February.
I'm looking forward to that. I hope there's about a foot of snow on the ground.
I got news for you. It can't be any colder than it's been this month in Major League Baseball.
And that's all about a foot of snow on the ground. They've seen it.
Wright rips one to left, base hit. Big turn at first, but Wright has a leadoff single for the Mets. Between innings, I asked manager Terry Collins what he thought so far of Sean Markham in his debut.
Well, I mean, obviously his changeup's really, really good, and we just got to keep the ball down. He got some balls in the middle of the plate to those other guys, but he's who he is. He gets ground balls, and he works the count, pounds the zone, and I think the more he pitches, the better he's going to be.
Terry, you're looking to get Ike Davis going. You got that 2-base hit there. What do you see?
Well, it's a matter of patience, and it's hard to do that here. But, Ike's going to hit. We know he's going to hit. We know he's going to drive in runs. And what I'm trying to do right now is just move him down the order so he can relax a little bit, because I know when he gets it going, he's going to be a big run producer for us.
Markham only had 9 pitches that inning, Terry. How many pitches do you think he has left in that right arm today?
Well, we're going to keep him around 85, so I'm going to let him start the inning and see where he gets to.
Terry, thanks.
You bet.
Lucas Duda hitting with David Wright off at first. Flew out to right his first at bat. Duda is a big guy, and he's got big power. 5 home runs. Quintero, second time he's fired down there. Tom, David Wright has really taken his stolen bases to another level this year. He's always been a guy that will run. That number's gone down in recent years. But when you look at what he's done, he's 6 of 7 on steals so far this year. He's been ultra aggressive. Consider the fact that last year is only 15 of 25 on steals.
Yeah, he reminds me of a guy like Paul O'Neill. You don't think of them as burners, but very smart base runners, especially able to pick spots. I'm talking about picking the right pitches to run on, the right pitchers to run on. It's obviously more than about just pure speed, and I think David Wright's as good as anybody in the game for picking the right time to run. Carlos Beltran, another guy put in that category, not as fast as he used to be, but just very smart base runners that become base stealers.
Two to Duda. Talking about high percentage guys. Case Utley is also in that category. Career 89%, highest active as far as base stealers go.
And we've talked about Duda's patience, but he's been aggressive in this at bat. He's had some pitches to hit. He's taken some good hacks at it. He gets right on top of the plate.
And he rips one. Base hit. David Wright's going to take the turn and go to third, and the Mets have something cooking here in the 4th.
Now, I've always liked Lucas Duda. The guy who get in the minor leagues at 380 on base percentage is going to hit in the majors eventually. Go through the signs from Quintero here, showing the changeup, the wiggle for the changeup. Watch the location of this pitch now. He wants it down and away. Where is it? It's up. Just hangs right up there for Duda.
So the Mets have runners at the corners, nobody out, and John Buck at the plate. 7 home runs on the year, and you want to talk about production from the Mets catchers. How about this? 7 home runs through 21 games. That's more than they had at that position all of last year and all of the year before.
That's amazing.
In 1 month, not even 1 month. Buck does not get cheated. He takes a big swing. A strikeout victim is first at bat, and although we told you with the month that he's had, 22 RBIs, leads the National League, he is just 4 of 24 on the homestand. He's gotten a little bit cold. And it's 2-0. Davis on deck. And it's 3-0 to John Buck.
Is he swinging? Well, in the game today, guys rarely swing on 3-0. Look at that number. Last year, almost 4,000 plate appearances over the course of the season, just 94 hits. I'm turning him loose here. If it's down the middle, take a hack.
And he takes ball 4. If ever there was a spot for Ike Davis to break out, this may be it. And Rich Doobie, the pitching coach, will go out and have a chat with Pettibone.
It's funny how the situations find you, huh? Terry Collins just talked about taking some pressure off Ike Davis by putting him in the 7th hole. Here he is in a huge spot in the game, bases loaded.
Well, the Mets have 3 grand slams already this year. Valdespin, Cowgill, and Buck. And now Ike Davis will have a chance with the bases loaded and nobody out here in the 4th. Raul Valdez will start to get the left arm loose in the Phillies pen.
Yeah, this visit is as much really buy some time to get the bullpen. Let's take a look at Ike Davis. Way spread out on the stance. That's the stance that actually got him going last year. He told me he really spread out some more to take away that big leg kick that he had. But hands much higher today than they were last night. The bat was a little flatter last night. Today it looks like he's changing a light bulb with the hands up high.
This is the first at bat of the season with the bases loaded for Ike Davis. He has 1 career grand slam.
Okay, there's that first at bat, hands up over the head.
Swings at the first pitch, hits it deep to left. Brown retreating at the track, hauls it in. That will get a run home, though. David Wright comes home to score. It's 3-2 Philadelphia.
And Kevin, I love the approach. Yes, he just walked the previous hitter on 4 pitches. The bases are loaded. Be ready for a first pitch fastball. Get the ball in the air, drive the ball to the outfield. Love the aggressiveness right there. Instead of playing for a walk, letting Pettibone get back into account with a gimme strike, jump on the first hittable fastball. Love the approach right there by Ike Davis.
Certainly aggressive, and he didn't miss that one by much. But he gets the sacrifice fly to make it a 1-run Philly lead. And here's Valdespin, who got the Mets on the board with an RBI double in the 2nd inning. Justin Turner is on deck.
You don't have to worry about Valdespin being aggressive. I'd be careful here with the first pitch fastball. He hunts those pitches.
He takes strike 1. Slow runners on base for the Mets with Duda on 2nd and Buck on 1st. There's a strike. Valdespin can't believe that one as he darted out of the way, but he does stand very close to the plate.
You're right. He stands close to the plate. This is the comeback 2-seamer here. Looks like it does come back over the corner of the plate.
That was a strike. So Duda and Buck. Pitcher spot on deck next, but it's Turner the pinch hitter, so Pettibone can't pitch around Valdespin. 0-2. Rollins Turner against the speed of Valdespin. Not in time. Just beat it out. Duda to 3rd. Buck forced out at 2nd.
He attacked him with fastballs. In this case, he got in on his hands enough, and it worked against him where the ball was hit softly enough. He barely beats the throw to first base. Let's take another look right here. Very close play. Valdespin making the call before he gets to the bag. He can run an umpire at the same time.
Just helping out.
Multitasker.
Just making sure. Justin Turner will pinch hit 1 for 6 pinch hitting so far this year. Carson warming in the pen. He'll be next in relief of Markham. Trying to tie this game up for the Mets. Markham's day is finished. His debut goes 4 innings, allows 3 runs. Turner, big swing and a miss at a fastball.
We saw this a little bit for Pettibon in his debut, where when he got in trouble, he relied on the fastball. 3 straight fastball to Valdesman, and now attacking Turner with fastballs.
Turner behind another heater. That's 1-2. Baxter, the leadoff man in the order today, on deck. Turner keeps it going.
See him shake here. He's got some options here. He can go back to that front door cutter, stay hard with the fastball or the change.
And he gets Turner with a fastball on the outside corner. All fastballs to his advantage in that at bat. And the Mets strand 2. They do get a run on the sac fly by Davis. It's the Phillies in front 3-2 as we head to the 5th. With 3 great matchups, Bryce Harper and the Nationals head to Pittsburgh to take on the surprising Pirates. The Orioles battle the Angels, and the Cardinals take on the Brewers. Fox Saturday Baseball presented by Budweiser. It returns next week at 3:30 Eastern. Here at Citi Field in New York, Phillies on top of the Mets 3-2, and the new pitcher for the Mets is the 24-year-old lefty Robert Carson.
Fastball slider guy, a guy with a kind of a crossfire delivery as a left-hander, makes him tough on lefties, and it's been true against the Phillies for years. When you go to the bullpen, you've got Utley on deck, Ryan Howard 4th batter due. You're going to see a left-hander in the game. That's why I like having Michael Young in between the 2 big left-handed hitters, Utley and Howard, like what Charlie Manuel has done with his lineup.
Can't bring that specialist out to get the 2 big outs late in the game. The Carson, who was recalled earlier this week and pitched 2 1/3 innings against the Dodgers, allowing 1 run in that outing. Coming on to face Jimmy Rollins here in the 5th. Sean Markham's season debut is done. Markham 4 innings and 3 runs, all earned, 5 hits, a couple of walks, and 3 strikeouts. Rollins reaches for one and pokes it into left center for a base hit. It goes all the way to the wall. Leadoff double for Jimmy Rollins for Philly in the 5th.
watch this stroke here by Jimmy Rollins. Doesn't try to do too much with it here. Nice smooth swing. He's an amazing hitter as a switch hitter. You know, a lot of times the guy's got one side that's really his weak side will influence whether you bring in a right-hander or left-handed. There's really no difference with Jimmy. Career 762 OPS as a left-handed hitter, and as a right-handed hitter, 752, almost identical.
Consistency. He's been consistently good against the Mets. 329 career hitter here at Citi Field. That's his 9th double of the year. And here's Chase Utley. RBI double his last at bat. 1 for 2 on the afternoon. Take strike 1 from Carson.
Think about this being now with a left-hander in the game, playing Chase Utley straight up. So earlier in the game, shading towards the gap in left center. Now that gap is very wide because Duda's in the same spot he was in earlier. He did not move with the center fielder.
Time for our Just for Men auto stop foolproof stat. How about that combination? Second most in Phillies history. Most by double play tandem since 1921. Keep an eye on Rollins. He has stolen third base twice already this year. Slider away. 1-2 to Chase Utley.
I know Chase sees a lot of left-handed relief pitching, but he hangs in against left-handed pitchers as well as any left-handed hitter in baseball.
Jammed him. Who's going to call it? It's Baxter at the last moment. Calls off Murphy for the first out.
By hanging in, I'm talking about that front side. A lot of times when you see that crossfire lefty, that front shoulder is going to bail out. Watch Chase Utley stay square to the pitch until the last moment when he opens up on the swing. Bryce Harper told me that's the template for him. Look to Chase Utley swing, and to be a good everyday player in the major leagues, obviously, you're going to hit left-handed and right-handed pitching. And Bryce Harper said that's the swing I want to study, is Chase Utley against left-handed pitchers.
Here's Michael Young. Rollins off a second. Young 1 for 2. And fastball misses away. Well, you're talking about Bryce Harper, and he just broke a Nationals record for home runs in April. He hit his 9th this afternoon as the Nationals lead the Reds 6-1. It's a pretty good month, I'd say, for the sophomore.
20 years old. Come on.
9 homers in the month. Wow. Second now to Justin Upton, the Braves with 11.
I mean, you really do have to keep reminding yourself that he's only 20 years old.
He's hitting 373 right now. I mean, you know, people say, well, what's the second year going to be like? It's going to be great. That's what it's going to be like.
And he hit about a gazillion in spring training. I mean, he just has not stopped hitting.
2-0 to Young. That just missed, and now it's 3-0, and Carson in some trouble.
All right, Kevin, you going to turn him loose right here? 3-0.
We were talking to Charlie Manuel before the game, and he said he loves giving hitters the green light on 3-0. Says it builds confidence. Does he give it to Young? Not that time, as he watches outside for ball 4. Phillies have a rally going. Meanwhile, we go to Matt Vasgersian in the MLB Network studios for a game break.
Kevin, 20-year-old Bryce Harper continues to amaze. His 9th home run of the year, RBIs 17 and 18, set a Washington Nationals April RBI record, and it's all Nats at home early on today. Kevin and Tom, back to you guys.
Let's see, Matt backing us up with the visual evidence. Harper on fire. And he's, you know, obviously last year they talked with Harper and Trout. Trout has not had, well, no one's had nearly as hot a start. Trout had, what, 270 coming into today for Anaheim. Here's Howard, and here's the shift. A little different. We've seen a little different variation, haven't we?
Each time, depending on certainly the run situation, where the runners are in this situation, looking for a double play, have to keep that in order.
Carson sliders away to Howard, who is 0 for 1 with a sacrifice fly. He just missed a home run his first at bat when Duda hauled in a fly ball at the wall.
This is where taking the ball to left field, that breaking ball, is what Ryan Howard really wants to do. Got a fastball in that time, but Carson can get him to roll over on a breaking ball, then he can get the double play in order. He went to the fastball. Actually got a lot of the plate right there. He got away with one. Look at these numbers on Ryan Howard. You see how his batting average goes down from after the 6th inning, and that's because he sees so many left-handed relief pitchers.
And slider misses from Carson. It's 2-1. Howard, last 3 games at Citi Field, 3 home runs and 10 RBIs. That's a great point about those numbers. Sometimes you look at a stat and say, wow, that's interesting. That's because I'd love to see the percentage of righties that he's faced in all that time. Probably just closers. Ahead in the count, 2-1. Rollins on first. Excuse me. Rollins on second. Young off of first with 1 down in the 5th. 3-2 Phillies over the Mets. Tejada gets through the wickets. Rollins will turn the corner. He'll hit home. Throw coming from Valdespin, not in town. Rollins comes home to score, and the Phillies go up 4-2 on the Mets.
It's a nice veteran move by Jimmy Rollins right there to kind of get in the periphery vision here of Tejada. Not sure if it influenced them tracking this ball.
Yeah, I think it did. It's a great point, Tom.
The ball's hit hard enough. It's a tough enough play as it is. I'm not sure Tejada saw it all the way. And he needs to hold up just in case that ball is catchable in the air. And it has the double effect of influencing Tejada's vision of the ball. He just didn't look comfortable on that at all.
Scored an RBI single for Ryan Howard. And it adds to the lead. 4-2 Philadelphia now, as Brown hooks one foul down the left field line.
Yeah, I'm okay with that scoring.
Yeah.
How about you?
I am too. Hard hit ball, and I think Rollins did a great job to shield. Hope is that Tejada could knock it down, but he couldn't. Howard's had a good day with 2 RBIs.
Take a look at Michael Young, the trail runner on this play. Watch him round second base. He has no thoughts at all of going to third. He's going nowhere. You see Ike Davis was late getting over to the cutoff. There's no chance of that ball being cut off. I'm not saying Young could have gotten to third base. Obviously it's a big base if he does, but it was never an option.
Brown hits one to right and deep. Baxter on the run. This one is gone. 3-run home run for Dominic Brown, and the Phillies have blown it open.
Well, we talked at the top about the lack of production out of the Philadelphia outfield. It's going to come from any of the guys out there. This is the one, Dominic Brown, who had a huge spring training. Just didn't carry into April, but that is what the Phillies have been looking for. That kind of power.
Dominic Brown's 3rd home run of the year makes it 7-2 Philadelphia. Now Mayberry gets into one. This one is way back to left, and that's gone. Back-to-back home runs for the Phillies. It's 8-2. They're in front.
Lance Nix, you're next. The outfielders back-to-back. Brown and Mayberry with no doubters. Here's Mayberry here, just to challenge fastball first pitch. He was sitting on it, ready for it, and didn't miss it. And there was Browns.
Nix is power too. He's got 2 home runs on the year and takes a big cut and misses, strike 1.
Yeah, no first pitch fastball anymore.
Well, the Phillies have ambushed Robert Carson for 5 runs in the inning, 2 home runs. They've blown this game open against the Mets. And you know, there's some irony here, because with Sean Markham, there he is making his debut and only throwing 71 pitches because he was kind of limited today, coming back from the rehab on the neck. Mets made a move before the game, and the move was optioning left-hander Josh Edgin to Double-A Binghamton. Edgin had struggled, and they wanted him to go to Double-A rather than Triple-A, which is in Vegas, where balls kind of fly to the park like Coors Field. And so on the day they do that, Carson, who looked good the other day, has gotten hit pretty hard today.
Well, we talked about this as our key to the game for the Phillies. You knew that Markham was limited in a pitch count. Get his pitch count up and get into this bullpen, which has the highest bullpen ERA in baseball. They were able to do that so successfully. Markham was gone after 4. So they got into that bullpen very early and getting results very early.
Second time this year, Phillies have gone back-to-back home runs, both against the Mets. The other time was April the 9th in Philadelphia. Ryan Howard and Michael Young went deep against Dylan G. Full count to Nix. Terry Collins tells us before the game, you asked him about the bullpen, he said, you know, there's a correlation there between the starters going deep in the game. The difference today is he knew that Sean Markham wasn't going to be able to go deep in the game on that limited pitch count, but stretching guys out again. Murphy on the backhand, just in time to get Nix for the second out. Well, this Phillies offense had been struggling coming in, and they tried to find their way, and Charlie Manuel said he was kind of out of options. We saw the positive note with the Ryan Howard home run last night, but there's some more positives today, that's for sure.
Yeah, you talk about 2 games that can make you feel good about where things are going. This is exactly what the Phillies needed. You mentioned Howard. Obviously, they're a better team when he's not just hitting, but hitting home runs. And now production from the outfield, a real weak spot on this team today, has been a big strength.
Quintero fouls one off. You know, it's funny. You know, last night with the 4 runs for the Phillies, they got 4 hits in a row, and then a 3-run home run, and it was 4 runs, and then that was it. Shut it down for the rest of the game. And Charlie Manuel told the Philly newspapers today, you know, we put together 4 straight hits, and all of a sudden we shut it down from there. We must have thought we hit a jackpot. I wanted to stop and get them to play a song for us. Kind of insinuating, hey, let's keep it going. Well, they've done that today.
Well, somebody asked him, what song would you like played? And he said, how about let's do it again?
Charlie is pretty witty, I'll tell you. Carson just trying to get through the inning. Markham was the starter. 4 innings for him, 3 earned runs. Carson in relief has given up 5 here in the 5th.
You know, we talked about Markham. This is really almost an extension of spring training for him. He's clearly didn't have the midseason arm strength that he'll have after a couple more starts under his belt. But the pattern holding for the Mets here, and obviously this game far from over, but they need to find games to win when Matt Harvey does not have the ball.
It's a great point. Matt Harvey, their young phenom who has been more than advertised this year. He's 4-0. There he is. Team's 5-0 in his starts. But games he doesn't start, the Mets are 5-11 to back up your point.
Yeah, I mean, 4 wins for Harvey and 3 for the rest of the rotation.
Quintero down on strikes, and the inning comes to a close. But the Phillies with a monster inning, 5 runs and 2 long balls. First it was Dominic Brown with a 3-run shot, and then Mayberry with a solo shot. Phillies have blown this game open here in New York. Between innings, Dan Worthing going over to console his reliever Robert Carson, who had about as tough as go as you can get. 5 Philly runs and 2 home runs.
Yeah, that's the kind of look when you're hearing but you're not listening. Your mind is elsewhere at that point.
Well, the Mets have quite the mountain to climb now. 8-2 Philadelphia in the home 5th inning. Jonathan Pettibone is nice lead. He's pitched a nice game, and Baxter hits one deep to center field, but Mayberry has a beat and makes the grab for the first out. Time for the Own Your Space pitcher profile, brought to you by Avis. Look at the work that Pettibone has done, Tom. What's impressed you the most?
You know, I like when he got in trouble, he went back to that fastball, commanding it on both sides of the plate. When he gets in trouble, he gets more aggressive. I really like that, especially here now with the lead. I expect him to continue to pound the strike zone with the fastball.
Here's Ruben Tejada, who grounded into a 6-6-3 double play his last time up. Maybe the biggest illustration of that point was the Turner at bat the last inning. Mets could have had a big inning there, and Turner in a pinch hitting spot, he went to the fastball to get him.
All fastballs, and right before that with Valdespin really attacked him with fastballs.
Tejada skies one to left. This one is deep. This one is carrying off the tip top of the wall. Tejada will roll on in with a second, almost too casual, walking into second base, but he's got a 1-out double.
Not going to see this ball carry too much from Tejada. More of a ground ball hitter. Doesn't really lean into one like he did right there. Look how close he comes to getting his first career home run at Citi Field. A couple inches, huh? Wow. More than 600 plate appearances in this ballpark. No home runs. Oh, man, if we had just a 5-mile-an-hour wind, that ball's out.
Anything. So close for Tejada. That's his first extra base hit. The last 36 at bats now for Tejada, so that's got to feel good. Now it's Murphy 0 for 2. How about Pettibone, 22 years old? We showed you that to start the year AAA, he was in 2 starts struggling. 0-1 with a 9.64 ERA. He's 0-2 to Murphy. Fit the time slot or the spot in the rotation. Came up, made a nice debut Monday in Philly. 5 1/3 innings, 2 runs, 6 hits, 6 Ks, no walks. Here he is today. He's had a couple rough spots. First inning, he hit the first batter, walked to Hada, gets out of it. Mets could have had a big 4th inning, but got 2 big outs to get out of a jam there, and he's calmly sailing along.
Yeah, you can see why they like him. Obviously, a real good pitcher's frame. I think he's going to gain velocity. What I really like is his nice, clean delivery. It really profiles as a pure strike thrower. Doesn't have a lot of movement with the head, stays on plane to the plate, good downhill action. That's his ticket to the big leagues to me, is that fastball command. It looks like that's something that shouldn't leave him because of his delivery. Very repeatable.
And Murphy, tip is caught. He's down on strikes. Strikeout number 4 for Pettibone, and there's 2 down.
And we talked to Charlie Manuel about having his father back in 1984 in Orlando. He said his father was more herky-jerky. I mean, this is just smooth. That's silk right there. Big guy who stays in his delivery very well.
And 54 strikes out of 85 pitches. So Pettibone is throwing strikes today. And his Mets have had base runners, but he's limited the damage. Tejada still on second after that double, up to David Wright, try and get him in. Fastball's high and tight, 1-0. Well, there's Jay Pettibone, 4 career starts, nary a win, but he needed a little help. He didn't get much help for the Twins.
How about the similarity, though?
Looks like it, right?
Exactly like Dad. But one thing Dad did in his first major league start, he threw a complete game. And he's actually the last pitcher in baseball history to lose a complete game in his major league start. Think about this. This would be crazy today. The score was tied 1-1. You're making your first major league start. You go back there in the 9th inning. And he lost the game 3-1. That would never happen, obviously. And it hasn't happened since then. That's obviously a relief situation, especially your first major league start. Completed that game, took the loss. Nobody has done it since.
They look exactly alike. I mean, look at those pictures. However, Jonathan does have bragging rights with one thing. Now, he may go on to get his first big league win today, which Jay wasn't able to do. But he has a base hit to his credit in the major leagues.
I'm sure he'll let his dad know about that.
Oh, for sure. 3-1.
And one more difference about that first start for Jay Pettibone in '83. How about this? The time of game, 2:09.
Just like today.
Boy, times have changed. Literally.
Should point out, Jay didn't have an at-bat either, playing for the Twins in the American League. I'm sure that doesn't bother Jonathan in bragging rights territory. Right, smokes one, fair ball. Tejada's going to come on in and score. David Wright with an RBI double. Make it 8-3 Philadelphia. So Wright 2 for 3 with an RBI today.
See this ball just inside the line. That was Terry Collins' idea. Get David Wright in the cleanup spot. More opportunities to drive in runs. Gets the job done there with a big 2-out hit.
His other base hit was a 2-out hit as well. So Wright 2 for 3 RBI double. Now 8-3 Philadelphia. That's trying to creep a little closer. Lucas Duda 1 for 2. Pettibone up at 92 pitches now.
Again, you see Lucas Duda taking that first pitch there, but you don't want him to go outside the zone just to swing at first pitches. And he actually sees more pitches out of the zone on the first pitch than any other hitter in baseball. And I asked him about his philosophy on first pitches, and he really equated it to a 3-0 situation where you just want a keyhole He's looking for something hard and up. And if it's not hard and it's not up and it's not over the plate, like that pitch, he's going to take. Now that's a situation I think he can be more aggressive on. That 2-0 pitch. That's a hittable fastball over the plate.
So Valdez for Philly, LaTroy Hawkins warming for the Mets. 2-1 to Duda. 2 down, right on second. Well, what you're explaining is that would explain why Duda is swung at 7 of 77 first pitches coming into today. And added to that number, Buck on deck. Duda pokes one to left, but right at Brown, and the inning is over. Mets get a run closer. David Wright RBI double, but Philly still in front, 8-3. Aspirin, the official pain reliever of MLB, and by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Moss. Phillies lead the Mets 8-3 as we go to the 6th. 8 runs, tying a season high for Philadelphia. Back-to-back home runs from Dominic Brown and John Mayberry in a 5-run 5th inning, and that has been the offense. Jonathan Pettibone has done a nice job, and it looks like his day is done, getting the congratulatory handshakes. His third pitcher of the afternoon for Terry Collins is 40-year-old LaTroy Hawkins, now on in relief. And Kevin Franzen is the pinch hitter for the pitcher Pettibone, and he swings at the first pitch and grounds it to Murphy. One pitch for Hawkins, and there's one away here in the 6th inning. Valdespin goes to left field now, and into the game is Colin Cowgill. He'll bat 9th. Lucas Duda, who made the out to end the inning, is now out of the game. Jimmy Rollins back to the top of the order for Philadelphia. Rollins had a nice day. 2 for 3, double the single, 2 runs scored. As we look at Pettibone, who is in line to get his first big league victory today.
By the way, just in case you're wondering, LaTroy Hawkins did not play with Pettibone's father. He did play with Chuck Knobloch and Kirby Puckett. That's how long he's been around.
Rick Aguilera. He actually cites Puckett as his mentor, or one of them. Tejada hauls in the Rollins pop-up, 2 down. Valdez has been throwing for about 3 hours in the Philly bullpen, so he'll be on next. But, you know, it is amazing, Tom. I mean, the Hawkins obviously been playing for a long time at age 40, but he still brings it with 92 miles an hour on the fastball.
His arm is amazing, and he's one of the real rare relief pitchers you'll see throw 4 pitches. I mean, he's like a starting pitcher out there. It was at one point in his career, but you're absolutely right. Really hasn't had to compromise much from velocity. You saw the defensive shot there. Valdez been in left field now. Watch the arm swing of LaTroy Hawkins. Just real nice and long and easy. See how far he gets that ball back? And he makes that look effortless.
Strike with a fastball to Utley. There's that 92. That's almost something you would show, you know, a young kid learning how to pitch. Look how simple and easy this motion is, right?
It is. Once that ball comes out of the glove, it never stops. Creates a lot of energy and momentum, and he's kept himself in great shape.
Tejada at short makes the play. 1-2-3 inning for LaTroy Hawkins. Bottom 6 we go. Phillies up 8-3.
And Detroit and the Tigers have gone deep twice. Not the usual suspects, however. Johnny Peralta's second, and Omar Infante pictured here his first. Tigers try to pull within a half game of first place Kansas City. Reds and Nationals, and the Washington infield has had its trouble this year, but the Nats' new center fielder is going to get himself a few early Gold Glove looks. Denard Span robbing Joey Votto to keep a 6-2 lead in check. Back to Kevin and Tom in Flushing.
Well, Major League Baseball and People magazine looking to salute our nation's veterans and military service members. 30 veterans, military service members, one to represent each Major League Baseball team, will be recognized at the 2013 MLB All-Star Game in New York City. To nominate, go to tributeforheroes.com. Raul Valdez been around the block, and the 35-year-old in relief of Jonathan Pettivone for the Phillies in the 6th. Face John Buck to lead it off, and it's upstairs, ball 1. You just saw Matt with the highlights there. Denard Span just is the perfect fit. That's what the Nationals were lacking. You just feel that way with what he brings, not only at the leadoff spot, but in center field for that team.
Yeah, that was really a piece to the puzzle that fit perfectly. You mentioned it, not just the defense in center field, but that's the leadoff hitter I think they've been looking for. Has really set their lineup.
line is closed on Jonathan Pettibone. 5 innings, 3 runs, 7 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, 96 pitches in his second big league start. Very similar to his first one, but in line to get his first big league win. And considering, and you go down the minor leagues, especially in that type of situation when Lanning goes on the DL, you don't know what you're going to get. But I think the Phillies have to be pleased that they've gotten the first 2 starts from him.
Yeah, they do. And I can tell you, from an organizational perspective, that puts a smile on everybody's face. You draft a guy out of high school. You see this ground ball is shortstop to Rollins, will take care of it. You keep him healthy. That's the biggest thing. You get him through almost 500 minor league innings, which is, most organizations will tell you, that's ideal. Rather than rest somebody, make sure they get 500 innings under their belt and get him to the major leagues at the age of 22, where he does look like a polished pitcher out there. Certainly not a finished product, but the poise and the mound presence. He's the youngest pitcher to start for the Phillies going back 6 years. So that's a win for the entire organization when you have a young guy come up and look the way that Pettibone does.
Ike Davis has had a good day with a sacrifice fly and a double, but here swinging at the first pitch, and Quintero battles the sun to make the catch, and there's 2 away. You know, it's funny too when you talk about Pettibone. Both the Phillies and Mets are similar, and they have young, exciting guys in the system that, you know, the fans really would like to see up at the big league level. Jesse Biddle for the Phillies took a perfect game into his last start in the 7th inning for Double-A Reading. For the Mets, Zach Wheeler came over in the Carlos Beltran to San Fran trade. He struggled a bit at Triple-A in that tough atmosphere in Vegas. Rafael Montero didn't start, wasn't signed at 20 years old, which is late for an international player, but he is lighting it up. Last year, 119 strikeouts, 19 walks, and this year he's on that same type path.
Yeah, you might see him at the second half of the season the way he's coming. You make a good point, though, about Las Vegas and the problems that presents for pitchers. I think it's a very difficult thing, especially for an East Coast team. You talked about Josh Edgin going down, sent to Double-A rather than Triple-A. And it's a function more of the environment in Las Vegas than what they think about Edgin. I think it's a very difficult thing. There's also the situation if you need someone quickly, say you have an extra inning game on a Saturday night, you need someone for a day game Sunday. If he's in Las Vegas, might not get to the game in time.
Nice catch at third by Michael Young. Valdespine, the line drive is out. First 1, 2, 3 inning for the Phillies today. We'll return to New York after a word from your local Fox station. Presented by Chevrolet. We start the 7th at Citi Field in New York. Phillies lead the Mets 8-3. Second inning of work for LaTroy Hawkins. He threw a 6-pitch inning the last time up, and the Phillies just deciding they're going to swing at everything from LaTroy. And first pitch swinging is Michael Young. He's got his second hit of the day. See the line score, the 5 runs coming off of Robert Carson in relief of Sean Markham in that 5th inning. Dominic Brown with a 3-run home run. Mayberry with a solo shot back to back. And this guy has had a good day. You talked about him to start the broadcast, Tom, and Charlie Manuel's eyes have got to be getting big. He sees his big guys starting to kind of get it together here.
He does, and Charlie obviously knows hitting so well. Sees some mechanical changes and improvements in Ryan Howard. Really a matter of health. You know, obviously he had that bad Achilles injury, came back from it last year. Really wasn't himself. And it was the left Achilles. So the back leg of Ryan Howard hasn't really been a factor in his swing until we've seen here in the last week or so, where he's driving that backside through the baseball. And that's where he's getting the power from. He's a strong man, but if you don't have your legs underneath you, they're not strong. You know, the balls are not getting out of the park, but he's starting to square things up and drive them, getting that back leg through the baseball.
Strike one to Howard. Well, Howard, you see a few things to learn about him. There's a lot of charity work with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. TV star, if you didn't know it, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. For Howard. And, you know, Tom, you're talking about using his legs and his lower body to kind of drive through the ball. He's already ridiculously strong with that upper half. But how much of that do you think was from that Achilles injury? How much of it is still just kind of working through that? And that's not an easy injury to come back from.
No, you're absolutely right. I think it has a lot to do with it. I think even defensively you see it. I think he's still not quite all the way back from it in terms of mobility. But certainly as a hitter, and Charlie talked about this, he just doesn't feel like the strength was there last year in that back leg.
Well, I mean, you go back to the NLDS Game 5 2011, the strangest way to end a series. Right out of the box, there it goes. He blew the Achilles right there. Chris Carpenter with a complete game jam outdoing Halladay. And, you know, everybody's looking at the Cardinals celebrating. There is their star player crumpling to the ground. It was a pretty horrific scene for Philadelphia. And trying to kind of get back to where they were since then, with their stars healthy in the play like that. And Howard tattoos one to right field. Baxter gets back, can't make the play. Howard stops at first. Young takes the turn and goes to third.
Well, you mentioned the sun. He's looking up into the sun. I think he thought this ball was going to carry a little more than it did. Had to make an adjustment. Now the ball is below eye level. As an outfielder, once that ball gets below eye level, it gets a little tricky.
Baxter, normally a reliable outfielder, lost the ball in the lights last night. They gave a double to Jason Nix, and then that one doinked off the glove for an error. The Phillies all of a sudden with 2 on to start the 7th inning. Nobody on, and here's one of the stars of the game, Dominic Brown, 2 for 3 with a 3-run home run. Young at third, single on the first pitch, and now Howard at first. There's a strike. So Dominic Brown has 2 3-run home runs in his career. One today. The other came April the 10th, also off the Mets. That one was off Jeremy Hefner.
We talked about the big spring training he had. He's made an adjustment. He used to have his hands much higher over his head. They're much lower. They used to be up above the batting helmet. See, that fastball gets by him. That's a little bit of a hole that he has. He had trouble shortening his stroke and getting to those high fastballs. It's a good pitch by Hawkins. It's tough to catch up to with 93 out of the zone, elevated. Brown's been much better, much shorter stroke, much shorter pass to the ball than he had previous years.
Goes down on strikes. Now it's Mayberry's turn. It was solo home run his last time up. And the home runs, told you about the home runs off Met pitching. It's been a little bit of a problem. I mean, last week, Mets and Nationals on Fox. Bryce Harper with 2 home runs that day against the Mets. Mark Ellis, not a home run hitter, against the Dodgers with 2 home runs earlier this week against the Mets. And it's 1-0 to Mayberry.
This is an outfield that came in as a 28th outfield in all Major League Baseball based on run production, and certainly would not know it by today's numbers. 3 for 8, 2 home runs and 4 RBIs, and Dominic Brown's 3-run homer, a real game breaker.
And waiting on the return of Delman Young from that ankle injury. 1-1 to Mayberry. Tejada with a nice play. The diving grab at short. Out number 2.
His ball is just scalding, and watch Tejada. Great first step quickness, almost like a third baseman. Don't normally think of shortstop as a step in a dive position. That's normally the hot corner, but now it's the hot corner at shortstop. This ball's hit so hard, Howard almost gets doubled up. Look at him, secondary lead. Whoops. Tejada almost had a play at first base. Should never get doubled up on the ball to the left side of the infield. Really only a ball to the first baseman you should get doubled up on, but scrambled back in time.
Hit so hard it almost turned Tejada's glove over. That was a nice play by Tejada for the second out. Now it's Nix with a big cut and a miss. Looking at that Nationals-Reds game as we see Scott Rice warming in the Mets pen. How about the Nationals pitching of late? They got 1 hitters the last 2 nights from Jordan Zimmerman and Gio Gonzalez, and then today Danny Herron, 6 innings, 6 hits and 2 runs. They lead the Reds 6-2.
Wasn't it about 5 minutes ago people were worried about that team?
Yes.
I wouldn't worry about the Nationals. They don't have a weakness. You know, there's times, and Matt Vasgersian talked about this, where the infielders kick the ball around, the bullpen a couple of shaky games, but I'll take that roster any day of the week.
And that manager, Davey Johnson. 0-2 to Nix. You know, and the Braves have come down to earth a little bit after that ridiculously hot start, even though they took care of the Rockies, losing again in Detroit 5-3 today. It's going to be some dogfight.
Well, you mentioned Davey Johnson, and actually this Nationals team reminds me so much of the '86 Mets. And last year's Nationals team was almost a carbon copy of the '85 Mets, with the exact same number of games, same manager. You have the Strasburg-Harper combination, the parallel to Gooden and Strawberry. And attitude, both teams. I remember the '86 Mets and Davey Johnson saying, we don't just expect to win the division, we want to dominate. And the Nationals, partly because of Davey Johnson, have the same type of attitude. They expect to win.
See those standings. Braves and Nats have been playing some great ball, especially Atlanta. Nick's hanging in here. You know, it's funny because Strasburg has maybe just been a tick off of his normal completely dominating self. He's 1-4. Jordan Zimmerman's been the best pitcher on the staff. He's got 2 complete games already this year. He threw 91 pitches in a complete game last night. 91.
Well, you know, it's really about development. And Gio Gonzalez and Jordan Zimmerman, they're further along the development path than Steven Strasburg. Now, Strasburg has better stuff. But this is a guy who's made 50 major league starts and has never gotten an out in the 8th inning yet. He's really been a 6th-inning pitcher. That's not an ace.
Nix bloops one into left. That'll be an RBI base hit. Young comes in to score. Make it 9-3 Philadelphia. Good at bat by Lance Nix.
Really good at bat. Fouled off some tough pitches. Get to another pitch here. Another fastball up out of the zone. This time he gets on top of it. Just hits it, if you will, poorly enough to dump it in.
That's a season high for the Phillies with their 9th run for an offense that was looking to find themselves. I think they found it here in New York between last night's 6th inning where they scored 4 and here 9 runs today. Quintero the hitter. Catcher's 0 for 3. And we should bring up the fact that the Phillies, maybe as their offense starts to come into play, they're getting Carlos Ruiz back tomorrow. Suspended the first 25 games of the year for a banned substance. That is a huge piece to the puzzle returning at catcher for this team.
Very important piece offensively and defensively. Even the clubhouse, running the pitchers' meetings. You know, it's funny, we talked about this outfield at the start. The Phillies outfield came in with only 17 RBIs, tied for last in the league with the Miami Marlins. 5 RBIs out of the 3 outfielders today. Things turn around in a hurry.
0-2 to Quintero. Nicely done by Tejada. A couple good defensive plays that inning. But the Phillies had a run. The RBI from Lance Nix had a 6-run lead on the Mets. Davis, it's your space. And by Chevrolet, find new roads. Fox Sports sends our sympathies to everyone affected by last week's tragedies both in Boston and in West Texas. Please support onefundboston.org for those affected in Boston. Colin Cowgill came into the game in a double switch by Terry Collins in center field and will now have his first at bat, batting in the 9 hole here in the 7th inning where the Phillies lead the Mets 9-3. And Cowgill takes outside, ball 1. Cowgill acquired from the A's this offseason. And as a matter of fact, near the end of spring training, Terry Collins said, you know, as he was trying to figure out this outfield situation, I think Cowgill is going to be the guy that's going to get most of the reps in center field. So Cowgill went out, hit a grand slam on opening day, and has really struggled since then and hasn't seen a lot of regular playing time. So it's been a tough go after a very good spring training.
Yeah, it looked like he was going to be the leadoff guy. Instead, Terry Collins has used 6 different players in the leadoff spot in the first 21 games of the season. again, he talked to us about wanting to establish consistency in the lineup. Doesn't want players coming to the park each day wondering, am I in the lineup today? Am I hitting first today? Am I hitting eighth today? And even coming off the shutout loss last night, came back with the same lineup today to try to forge some consistency.
Two. Does he hold the swing? He does. Well, this is the 22nd game of the season. And the Mets have used 19 different lineups to support your point. Payoff to Cowgill. And Valdez gets him. Cowgill, a strikeout victim. We go to Matt Vasgersian in the MLB Network studios for a game break.
Kevin, Atlanta and Detroit, and Justin Upton is at it again. Already his 12th of the season. This home run puts him 2 shy of tying the major league record for home runs in April. Braves down a run in Motown. Back to you guys in Columbus.
I can't even believe the start that Justin Upton is on. It's unbelievable. That's 12 home runs. The crazy thing is backs to the batter. I think everyone's been a solo shot.
Everyone but one. 11 solo home runs. He came into this game hitting 167 with runners on base. But with nobody on base, it's like watching a guy take batting practice.
That is the weirdest anomaly ever. So he's got 12 home runs and 17 RBIs. That's hard to do. But he's carried them. I mean, he has carried the Braves. And when you consider the start they've had, and you know, Dan Uggla struggled, Jason Hayward has really struggled. He's on the DL now after an appendectomy. Rice continues to warm for the Mets. Freeman was on the DL for a while. He's back now. B.J. Upton has struggled. They've had a lot of guys struggle to be 15-7.
Yeah, and as you saw last night as well, with Anibal Sanchez setting a Tigers record with 17 strikeouts. There's a lot of strikeouts in that lineup. You're talking about 6 or 7 guys who are going to punch out 150 times. But the power quotient up and down the lineup is probably as good as there is in baseball.
2-2 to Baxter, and down he goes. So Valdez starts off the home 7th with 2 strikeouts. But look at the Braves. Upton actually has 2 RBIs today, not 1. So he's got 12 home runs and 18 RBIs. He's just been terrific. What a trade. And Evan Gattis, the story of stories for Atlanta. He was out of baseball for 4 years. Made the team in spring training, really thanks to the injury to Brian McCann, and 6 home runs. He's been huge for that Braves team.
Yeah, and Freddie Gonzalez was able to drop him into the 4-hole in the lineup, which speaks to the confidence of a guy like Gattis. And when you say out of baseball, that's about as far out of baseball as you can get. He's working as a ski lift operator. He's working as a janitor, consulting with spiritual advisors in California, trying to decide what to do with his life. Decided to come back and play. Shows you how much ability there is to take 4 years out of this game. Back to junior college and just raked. Got drafted by the Atlanta Braves in 2010. And here he is, right in the middle of the lineup with the best home run hitting team in baseball.
And speaking of Brian McCann, he started out a rehab assignment last night, caught 6 innings and hit 2 home runs, coming back from major shoulder surgery. So just add him to the mix of an already potent Braves lineup. Murphy on deck. One, 2. Michael Young makes the play. Mets are down in order here in the 7th. Phillies in control. 9-3, they lead it. As we head to the 8th, changes for Terry Collins. Colin Cowgill goes from center to left. Juan Lagares will take the place of Mike Baxter in the leadoff spot. He comes in to play center field. And then Jordani Valdespin moves from left to right. So Valdespin's played every position in the outfield today. Scott Rice is the new pitcher for the Mets. Freddie Galvis is the pinch hitter for the Phillies in the 9th spot. As we start the 8th, switch hitter batting right against Scott Rice. Chad Durman picks up a ball in the Phillies bullpen.
Can't remember the last game I saw that had 3 center fielders.
Doesn't happen very often, Tom. Maybe in the Sandlot.
Back in Little League when you rotate positions.
Exactly.
T-ball.
Maybe Valdespin will come in and play his natural position, the infield, as the game goes on. There's still a little time left here in the 8th inning. Scott Rice is a great story. 14-year minor leaguer. 14 years, and he bounced around everywhere imaginable. Independent leagues and a few different stops, and got told last day of spring training that this year that, son, you made the team. Congratulations. And he's pitched very well for this Mets team.
31 years old, certainly doesn't throw hard. We just saw Raul Valdez out there for the Phillies throwing 86 at the age of 35, still going. You can spin the ball and you're left-handed, you can stick around.
Foul ball. This comes at you. He's 6'7". He's a big guy. He's got that big plane throwing downhill, has a good sinker. And Galvi's down on strikes. A strikeout for Scott Rice. While at the MLB Fan Cave, Orioles Chris Davis and Darren O'Day took part in a Fan Cave video shot in a 1930s newsreel style where they impress fans with their skills. Go to MLBFanCave.com. Check out the entire piece along with other great Fan Cave videos. Now, I'd be impressed if they edited that together. Then I would really be impressed. I think they had fun over there, though. Good for them.
Yeah, when you throw 87, 88, you need a little deception to make it look tougher to pick up. Where's the ball? See how well he hides the ball? You really don't see the ball much. The arm doesn't swing down like you saw Hawkins take the ball down. When he takes the ball out of his glove, it pretty much stays above the waist and behind his body. So you don't see that ball until he really gets it up to deliver it out of his release point. Just a little deception that takes over for the velocity that really is not much to speak of. You can make 88 look a lot harder if you hide the ball the way Scott Rice does. 480 games in the minor leagues.
3-0 to Rollins here, and he walked him up 4 pitches.
Watch this from behind here. Try to see if you're the batter. Can you see the baseball? No, no, no. It's behind his body. It doesn't come down behind his back. Now it's still behind his head. Now you see the ball. So as a hitter, what you want to do is just focus on where that ball is going to be released from. Maybe have a soft focus on the cap somewhere around the face and then shift over to that little box where the ball is going to come out of. If you try to follow the arm, you're not going to see the ball until it's too late.
Nice backhand by Davis, but then the ball got stuck in his glove. Check this out. Ike was ready to turn the double play, but the ball got stuck in the webbing, so he had to settle for the play at first.
This glove needs some repair work. That's too loose. This is a ball that bounces and it's trapped in the glove. Maybe broke a string right there. I mean, he thought he had a double play in order until Ball stuck in the webbing.
Now, we've seen pitchers when something like that happens, or when they can't get out of their glove, they just throw the whole glove to first. So you think I could have taken the glove and rifled it 90 feet to second?
For comic relief, he could have, but I'm not sure about the effectiveness of it. I would like to have seen it.
Michael Young, the batter, 2 down, runner on the pond for him, and he takes ball 1. Young seemingly on base every time against the Mets this year. He's got 2 hits today, been on base 3 times, also a walk. He's now 5 of 7 playing at Citi Field for the first time as a Philly.
I can guarantee you that must be a glove Ike has had for quite some time. That's not a new one he broke in spring training this year.
He's still trying to figure it out.
I'd say a little repair work is in order after the game.
Yeah, you work so hard to, when you're a kid, you oil up the mitt and you tie with a baseball and you put it under the bed and you keep doing what you got to do to loosen up. When you get that, it's so nice and comfortable, but then now it needs a little work, a little TLC.
Yeah, that's a little floppy right there. You can tell that's an older glove. Reminds me of Bill Buckner, probably one of the most famous errors of all time. It's a glove he had for years, and he said really it betrayed him in that situation because the glove just closed on its own before the ball got there. It was just so loose and floppy. It had, as you said, that broken in, great feel, that nothing better than a glove that really conforms to your hand. But at some point, you got to tighten it up.
3-1 to Young, who's 10 of 18 against Mets pitching this year. Tough play, and Rice would have had to make a tremendous play to get him. Couldn't. Infield hit from Michael Young, another hit against the Mets, and now first and third for the Phils with 2 down.
It doesn't matter if he hits it hard or soft. It's a base hit against the Mets. Huh? This one off the plate. You couldn't have dropped the ball out there any better than that.
And now Howard, who's had a good series. 3-run home run last night off of Dylan G that essentially won the game. And today, let's see, just missed a home run his first at bat. Sacrifice fly his second at bat. RBI single in the 5th, and then reached out an error, but a well struck ball in the 7th. Though he's made very good contact today.
Yeah, in terms of good swings and squaring up the baseball, he's 4 for 4.
There's strike 1.
You know, even before last night's game, Charlie Manuel was telling me he thought a swing he took against Wandy Rodriguez a couple of days ago was the one where he said, wow, he's attacking the baseball now. That was a curveball that he just crushed into the upper deck at Citizens Bank Park. Carried that into the game last night with the 3-run home run. And right here, Scott Rice gets one by him off speed.
I would like to have that one a little lower next time, though. He's got Howard 0-2 with 2 down. And he gets him.
Got it
Scott
lower.
Rice did get it lower, and he got Howard and a strikeout. Mets have some work to do. The Phillies in control. Chad Dermott will come on next. brought to you by Lowe's. Lowe's never stop improving. And by Budweiser, the official beer of Major League Baseball. Great times are waiting. Grab some Buds. Well, we saw this play. Ike Davis tried to turn the double play. Ball gets stuck in glove. And clearly needs some surgical attention. And so enter Justin Turner. He pinch hit earlier in this game. And this is getting serious, Tom.
Is that what's known as a utility player?
If you could pinch hit and play every infield position and fix gloves, that's impressive.
Every team's got a glove doctor. You have to have a guy in your roster. Everybody's got a go-to guy when there's something wrong with the leather. Justin Turner is the glove doctor for the Mets.
Veteran Chad Durbin, who's really struggled this year, been such a consistent reliever for his career. Where he's particularly struggled is Daniel Murphy leads it off for the Mets. Phillies lead it 9-3 here in the home eighth. And obviously this situation doesn't apply, but Durbin's had trouble coming in with runners on. He's inherited 11 runners this year and 9 of them have scored. Here he starts the inning clean, and he's ahead 0-2 on Daniel Murphy.
Well, his velocity has been down a couple of ticks, and not that he's a high velocity guy, but when you go from 90 to 88, you know, it's not a good sign. Obviously, Mike Adams, another one of their bullpen guys, has shown a little bit diminished velocity this year.
But Durbin blows away Murphy. Big NASCAR race on Fox tonight. Let's go to Chris Myers for the preview.
Hey, this is Chris Myers. Hope you join us tonight, 7 Eastern, NASCAR on Fox from Richmond, Virginia. It's a race that Tony Stewart and Dale Earnhardt Jr. have each won 3 times. But it's short track racing, and that means tempers are likely to overheat. And Kyle Busch has dominated this race the last 4 years, so we hope you join us later tonight.
Thanks, Chris. We will do just that. As we have a 9-3 Phillies lead over the Mets here in the 8th. David Wright takes inside. You know, when you look around Major League Baseball, as we're getting near the end of April now, starting to take at least some sort of a picture of what this year could be. Clearly, there have been some surprises. And, you know, Tommy, there hasn't been that one jump out story or, you know, clearly Justin Upton has been a breakout performer, but we know about his talent. It's not a shock that he is doing what he's doing in terms of the talent that he has. But you look at the teams, some teams that are really surprising you in the early going.
Well, it's strange to say this after all these years, but the Boston Red Sox are a surprise team because they're winning.
You ever think you'd say that?
No. Certainly after the disaster of last season, it is a bit of a surprise. Certainly at 16-7, tied with Texas for the best record in baseball, Kansas City and Colorado. 2 more teams that had losing records last year. Playing very good baseball first month of the season.
All right. Almost fell down on that one. You know, that one hurts. Not sure where it got him. Let's see. Yeah. In that right foot.
Yeah, that's unusual.
It's hard to
back leg. Did you see him with the pad on the front foot? That makes sense, but off the back foot, that doesn't happen too often.
Give it a second to regroup. Durbin has him 1-2. Reaches for the breaking ball. 2 down. Well, the Red Sox, I mean, their top 2 pitching wise has been the thing. John Lester, Clay Buchholz, both been terrific, and that has really carried that team. And then David Ortiz coming back from the DL on fire.
These 2 guys literally unbeatable so far, and they've actually carried their spring training, which was terrific, into the regular season. Obviously, John Farrell back there, their old pitching coach, now as manager of the Red Sox, gets a lot of credit.
Juan Lagares now came in the double switch, hits the first pitch right to Michael Young, and the inning is over. 10 in a row retired by Phillies pitchers. They're up on the Mets 9-3. presented by Chevrolet. Along with Tom Verducci, I'm Kevin Burkhardt. Glad to have you along today as the Phillies lead the Mets 9-3. We're in the ninth. And Dominic Brown, one of the stars, with a 3-run home run to spearhead a 5-run fifth for Philadelphia. Scott Rice in his second inning of relief. Nice snare with the glove, and there's one down.
Definitely helping yourself right here. Balls to the arm side, not the glove side. Does a nice job reaching back for it. Just like they practiced for hours on end in spring training.
Oh, yeah. See, all that PFP was for something. Jeremy Horst warming for the Phils. If you just tuned in, Sean Markham made his Mets debut today. He was injured with some neck nerve issues to start the season. Was on a limited pitch count, went 71 pitches, 4 innings, 3 earned runs against Markham. Robert Carson had the stumbling block. An inning of relief, 5 runs and 2 home runs in that fifth where the Phillies blew the game open. For Philadelphia, their offense has found themselves. 8 of 9 starters with base hit. 7 different players have scored. 5 different players with an RBI. And this guy, John Mayberry, one of them with a solo home run in the 5th inning. Of course, their starter today, 22-year-old Jonathan Pettibone, in line for his first big league win with 5 innings, 3 runs, 7 hits. Charlie Manuel's got to be thrilled. Here's one thing for the Phillies, who come into this game at 10-14. Rice makes the play, 2 down. You know, how about this? Offense coming alive, 9 runs, a season high, 12 hits, but consider that in games that Hamels, Halladay, and Lee have started, the Phillies are 4-11. You'd have to think that changes for them.
I would say so. I think that's a safe bet. Kind of weird that just things seem to work against them even when those guys have pitched well. Bullpen blowing a couple of leads this week for those guys, but I talked to Roy Halladay yesterday, and you could hear and see the confidence in his voice. I mean, I really thought he was laboring and struggling, and there was frustration on the mound, which you never see from him in those first couple of starts. But his last 3 starts, he's been dialed in, and he's got that way about him again where he feels like he's back on track.
2-0, a 1.71 ERA the last 3 starts for Halladay. You know, you certainly have covered Roy a lot. You know, the feeling was that he was just taking a little time trying to figure things out with a little bit diminished velocity. You think he's there now? You think the last 3 starts have kind of to that point, or still a little bit more work to do?
He's actually got back a little more velocity. I mean, he's not going to get back to, I don't think, 95, 96, but certainly at 91, 92, that's plenty good enough.
Sure.
And I think he's back in an aggressive mode where before it seemed like, and I never saw this before from him, he was nibbling, just wasn't trusting his stuff. And that's all of his stuff, not just his fastball. And I think he's a pitcher that needs to work in attack mode and be aggressive, and that's where he's been the last 3 starts.
And Cole Hamels still looking for his first win of the year. Hamels and Jonathan Neese, 2 lefties tomorrow here at Citi Field. 2-2 from Rice.
Well, the kid shows up his first road start, and they get 8 runs for him.
This is easy.
He's going to hear that from Hamels and Halladay and Lee, who are saying, well, hey, more some of that for us.
Cliff Lee looking on. 2-2 from Rice. Oh, look at that with the reach. Scott Rice with all 3 plays in the inning. All
PFP
1 threes.
clinic.
How about
Scott
that?
Rice.
That's not easy for a guy who's 6'7". Last chance for the Mets. We head to the bottom of the 9th. Phillies up by 6. Phillies trying to take the first 2 games of this 3-game series, lead at 9-3. 27-year-old lefty Jeremy Horst on to try and close the deal for the Phils, facing John Buck. And taking strike 1 is Buck, who was 0 for 2 with a walk today. 22 RBIs, lead the National League, lead the Mets. 7 home runs, lead the Mets. They carry this offense for most of April. Davis on deck. Lost last night. The Mets fell under 500 for the first time this season. And at 10-12, barring a massive comeback. Phillies are guaranteed a losing month for the 2nd straight year of April. But clearly, Charlie Manuel has to feel like there's some momentum building here. I mean, they lost 3 of 4 at home to Pittsburgh after today's starter, Jonathan Pettibone, helped the team win the first game. And a lot of good signs the last 2 nights. Especially considering it's the back end of the rotation they're going to win these games with.
Yeah, that's a great point. Even the loss with Halladay, I think you have to be encouraged about the way he's been throwing the baseball. The production from the outfield, power coming back to Ryan Howard, Chase Utley continuing to look really healthy, running well, swinging the bat well. A lot of good signs.
John Buck lifts one deep to left center field. This one is carrying back and gone. Home run number 8 for John Buck, and his magical April continues. That was no cheapie. Make it 9-4 Philadelphia.
It's a strong man right there. That ball not just far but extremely high with a lot of hang time. He just waffles this pitch. That's it. Put your head down and run. That's a no doubter right there.
8 home runs this April for John Buck. Ike Davis has swung at the first pitch the last 3 times in a row. And he flies out for the first out here in the bottom of the 9th inning. Look at this. Look where John Buck, where this month stands. I mean, he's right up there at the top. Only Piazza and Pudge have more. He had 41 RBIs and 12 home runs last year. He's got 8 home runs and 27 RBIs. Excuse me, 23 RBIs. Just an incredible start. Now Valdespin. And an RBI double back in the 2nd. And takes strike 1. Valdespin's played every outfield position today. Started in center, bumped to left, and then moved to right. It's 1-1 to Jordany Valdespin. Cowgill is next.
Of course, we're used to seeing him do amazing things coming off the bench. So he's the baseball version of the microwave Vinnie Johnson. Instant offense off the bench. His OPS is about 200 points higher when he comes off the bench than when he starts. It's an amazing home run rate coming off the bench.
Well, he's got 5 pinch hit home runs that he hit last year. Team record. He had a walk-off grand slam in his 2nd at bat off the bench on Wednesday against the Dodgers. It's almost like he doesn't know any better. He's hit big home runs against Papelbon, against Clipper in the closing spots last year. Late game doesn't faze him. But what happened last year, and what Terry Collins actually said this year is, you know, hey, I actually like him to have him on the bench, to have him at my disposal for those big situations, because that success hasn't translated necessarily in the small sample size when he starts so far.
7 home runs in 79 at bats coming off the bench.
Pretty good.
I mean, it's like having Barry Bonds on your bench.
There is one thing that phased Jordany Valdespin. That was the John Buck hammer throw. Bah! Ouch! John Buck has never thrown a whipped cream pie before.
He needs to work on that.
And what he threw was a left haymaker.
I think he's got to come out early tomorrow, get a little early pie throwing work. You're going to get somebody hurt. Watch this. Ouch.
That back of the head was me. I witnessed that firsthand. I thought I was going to have to pull Jordany off the deck after that.
Give him some smelling salts.
I mean, that was no joke. The one hopper and Utley puts away Valdespin. Mets down to their final out. Time now for the Burger King play of the game. How about the base hit from the starting pitcher, Jonathan Pettibone? Well, that's not all he did. He delivered 5 innings. Good stuff today, and he's in line for his first big league win. 3 runs, 5 innings for Pettibone, the 22-year-old who is filling in for Lannon in the starting rotation. In his performance, his first 2 starts in the bigs, has to have Charlie Manuel tickled.
I'm sure he can't wait to call home. He called Dad and said, "Hey, I got a W." Maybe the first thing he says is, "Hey, I got a knock."
Think that comes first.
And oh, by the way, I got a W. He gets this win, and certainly looks that way. The youngest Philly starter to win in 7 years, 22 years old.
Colin Cowgill, last hope for the Mets, who came into this game in a double switch, struck out his only at bat in the 7th. Chasing Mayberry back, but he's got a beat on it, makes the catch, and the ball game is over. So the Phillies have taken the first 2 games of this 3-game series. 9-4 the final score here this afternoon. They score a season high 9 runs to Philadelphia, getting back-to-back home runs in the 5th inning from Dominic Brown and Mayberry. First big league win for Jonathan Pettibone. Sean Markham in his Mets debut took the loss.
Yeah, and you can see the smiles there. And you know, when you come here to New York as the visiting team, you got a day game, you got some dinner reservations in New York. Well, the food's going to taste a little better because you get everybody involved in this game on the Phillies end, and the first major league win for Jonathan Pettibone.
Ryan Howard had a big day, a couple of RBIs for him. The Phillies have taken the first 2 games of this series. They take it 9-4. When we come back, we'll send it to Matt Vasgersian in the MLB Network studios and go around the league. Once again, the final score, the Phillies over the Mets, 9-4. We'll be back.